45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
We hit 1,000 new YouTube subscribers, and that was the deal. Once it got done, we were going to destroy the Carson Wentz poster. All right, Guidos, Purple Drinkers, this is for you.
Yes.
We did.
Yes.
All right, now Perloff, here you go.
Carson is not crumbled.
Not going down.
Okay, ready? I'm going to go like Office Space and do it sort of with the other end of the bat.
Whoa, yeah. You just give it the rip?
Yeah, rip it. Maggie can't rip it.
I can't rip it.
All right, let's both of us try.
Okay, here, wait, you try.
This thing is tougher than the actual Carson Wentz.
They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Welcome into the show. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff on a very busy Tuesday. The MLB trade deadline is in 3 hours, but that has not stopped my New York Mets from making yet another trade, Perloff. Gone is Max Scherzer, Mark Canha, if anyone cares about that. And just moments ago, literal moments ago, Jeff Passan of ESPN reported that Justin Verlander is now being traded back to the Houston Astros. So a place where he's had a lot of success, won a World Series, won a Cy Young. Now he goes back to the Astros for a playoff push.
So what's your reaction as a Mets fan?
Oh, bleep. What's my reaction?
Why? I feel like Mets fans might be happy about this. Sort of rip the Band-Aid off of what was looking to be a very painful, slow losing process.
Yeah, the Mets suck. They were not going anywhere.
Right.
June totally cratered their season. They're terrible, and the season is over. That I understand. The moment they traded their closer, David Robertson, I understood what was going on. But here's my question. So you're not going to keep Scherzer or Verlander? Like, you weren't just going to keep one of those guys for next year just to try to have a little bit more oomph in the rotation? Because this is, from what I understand, this is not a teardown. This is not this is not the process here.
Yeah.
This is a reallocation and a rebuild, and this is what happens when you have a rich owner. You feel like you can always go for it, but you don't keep Verlander? I mean, it's not like he was pitching that badly, actually. I mean, a little over a 3 ERA, made 6 starts. I don't know. I was okay with them keeping Verlander as the holdover, but congrats to the Astros, because the Astros, again, just such a formidable team, and it hasn't been perfect for them this year, but this is a cool step for them.
See, I think it's good. Like, get rid of the stench of this season. Like, everything.
It's not that bad.
I mean,
they're a bad baseball team, but that's it.
What's your payroll?
Like $1 gajillion.
So you tried to buy the best team in baseball, and it failed.
Yeah.
So now I think it's time for a different approach. You should be rebuilding. You know, you're basically, like, you paid millions of dollars for 2 40-year-old pitchers. I don't know. I feel like I would, if I owned the Mets, I'd be like, you know what? I don't want to be the same old Mets and overspend for these high-priced free agents. Let's do this differently. Let's go down and look at what Tampa's doing and be like them a little bit more, and just start with a new philosophy.
Listen, if everyone could be Tampa, they'd be Tampa, because every owner would only want to pay $60 million and be in the playoffs.
I don't think. Yeah, Steve Cohen would want to do that. He's the 15 billionaire. He's not going to go cheap and smart. He wants to spend, but he has to do it the right way.
Okay, but so Samter, who did the Mets get back?
His name is Drew Gilbert. Apparently, he was a former first-round pick last year, and he's the Astros' top prospect.
What position does he play?
Who knows?
Okay, well, that matters. But here's the thing. So they just traded Scherzer and got the top prospect in the Texas Rangers organization, who's Ronald Acuna Jr.'s brother, right? So he's like a raking in Double-A, and that's fine. You can get these top prospects. It's great. Cool. But then you're kind of caught in the middle here, aren't you? Like, are you thinking about the future? Are you thinking about right now?
I feel like this is great. If this guy's really the Astros' top prospect, assuming, maybe I'm making a leap of inference, but I would imagine the Astros are such a smart team. Their top prospect's probably a baller.
Yeah, but it's with prospects, you never know. It's always dicey. I don't know. I Scherzer, them trading Scherzer, I wasn't surprised, and honestly, a little bit of good riddance because he was just so bad in the playoffs. Whatever. He just was very disappointing in a Mets uniform.
It seems like, from everything I've heard, that he's lost a little edge.
He has, but I feel like Verlander still had a little bit. So,
but he's 40. I mean, you got to match your time frames up. I mean, I like rebuilding. I think it's smart. I like teams that are smart enough to give up on what is a lost cause.
Season.
What is it? But honestly, was Justin Verlander going to lead this team to a World Series?
Well, not this year, but why not next year? Like, why can't you keep this guy in the rotation? Next year, you've still got Kodai Senga. You're still going to have Quintana. Like, okay, then you got Verlander. So that's 3 nice pieces there in terms of pitching. Let's start from there as opposed to a prospect now. Listen, if he ends up being the next, David Wright, we don't even know what position he plays. It could be a pitcher, whatever.
I'm saying outfielder.
Okay, outfielder, fine. He can be, fine. But
wait, is that good or bad to be the next David Wright? Like, all sorts of promise and have a great first part of your career and then disappear? Is that...
We're not friends anymore. So you can definitely
go to one World Series and lose to the Royals.
Well,
Oh, man.
actually, David Wright was on the 2000 Mets, who also lost to the Yankees. But he did hit a big home run in that series.
Oh, is David Wright no longer there in 2050? Wait,
technically, he might have been on the roster. Yeah. David Wright was in the Subway Series in 2000.
How old was he? You're kidding me.
I can't, okay? I can't. Perloff, this is going to be the end of our friendship. I can deal with you making fun of the Bills.
Yeah, but
here's
not with the thing. Like, do you really want the team that everyone makes fun of?
I was wrong about David Wright. He wasn't in the Subway Series? Yes, he was. Am I wrong about that?
According to Baseball Reference, 2004 was his first year.
Why do I have David Wright in the Subway Series?
Think of Robert Ventura? I don't know.
Sorry about that. Whatever. I'm in a haze now because of this Verlander trade. I don't know. I'm disappointed. I know that just spending the most money isn't going to do it.
It's a great day for Mets fans. You should be. And I'm speaking globally because I don't know. I haven't scouted this prospect. I can't wait to get some scouting reports on him. No, I'm just kidding. I would know a good center field prospect if he hit me in the head. But I think this is a really good day because any team that goes from expensive and underperforming to promising and cheaper, it's generally how sports works. That's a really, really good thing.
Okay, but I don't even know if these two guys are the prospect they got from the Rangers or the prospect they got now from the Astros. I don't even know if they're going to be on the team next year.
Well, okay, 2 years from now. This is not a sprint, Maggie. This is a marathon. Steve Cohen, the billionaire owner of the Mets, wants to build a champion, and you can't just all of a sudden add in these free agents like that and win. Sometimes it works, but I think if he wants to build a champion, it seems like he's taking the right steps now. He's admitting his mistakes, and he's growing and learning.
But here's the thing. You're acting as if when he got and bought the team, they weren't already a work in progress. Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, they already had guys who were part of like this young homegrown core that they are trying to build and get to a place together, So it's not like he took him over and all of a sudden, now the build starts. The build had been started before that. He was just going to add the cherry on the top pieces with like Scherzers and Verlanders that were going to get them over the top.
Well, yeah, but it clearly wasn't working, though. It seems to me the Mets were not working.
No, obviously they're not because they're 5 games below 500.
So,
they stink.
I did read that there was thoughts of getting rid of Alonso already.
No,
I definitely read that.
That's not true.
They even had to come out and say
tons of money.
They even came out and said we're not going to trade Pete Alonso because there was so much heat around that. I mean, I don't know. We got a couple hours.
There's no hell will freeze over before the Mets will trade Pete Alonso. That's not going to happen. But anyway, so that's what's going on with the trade deadline. So congrats to the Astros. Get Justin Verlander here for a nice little playoff push. Also, the Astros just happened to be in town to play the Yankees, right? Stu? later this week, right?
Believe it's this weekend, yes.
So he could probably just hang out
Lovely.
across town and wait for the Astros to get to New York and then pitch for him. Okay.
Oof. Just saying, I just looked it up again. According to Athletic, Pete Alonso has been on the trade market all week.
No. Is that Ken Rosenthal?
No, it's so I don't know these guys, but it is Tim Britton and Will Salmon have said that Alonso's been out there all week and they haven't found any takers.
I don't like that one bit. I don't like that one bit.
You have to give up on the dream and move on. I do this as a Philadelphia fan
Jeff
every
McNeil. Why
every
would
3 years. I do this as a Philadelphia sports fan. Just admit your mistake, rip the Band-Aid, start over.
But why would they haven't even paid Pete Alonso yet? Why would they start over when they haven't paid him yet?
I don't know, because you don't get rings for the whole team when you win a home run derby. That's all you're going to do with that dude.
I know, and no more home run derbies, please.
How much do they owe Francisco Lindor too? That's pretty comical.
Well, that's going to be like a cool $300 million still left on that one.
What do they pay?
Thereabouts.
Well, I'm sorry.
Don't bring it up.
This is so unfair because I root for the rival team, but just. I think the Mets, even more sometimes than the Yankees, have become the face of overspending because of that Bobby Bonilla and Mo Vaughn contracts were so ridiculous.
Yeah, but then a little thing called the Bernie Madoff scandal happened, and the owners of the Mets lost a lot of their money. At least on paper, they lost a lot of their money, and so then they couldn't spend. So then they would sort of, they wouldn't get the number one guy. They'd get like the number two guy, the number three guy, and sold a lot of hope.
I still think they have that sort of stigma about them. And now with Cohen taking over the team, I think everyone was like, oh, they're going to try and buy a World Series. That was sort of the headline. And I think Cohen is acknowledging that's not quite how it works.
Well, the thing is about Cohen is he bought the team and promised a World Series in 5 years. Well, not promised. He said, I'd like to win a World Series in 5 years. And so clock's ticking on that now.
So what? That's just a statement from a new owner. It doesn't mean anything. It's not like, oh, if he doesn't get to the World Series in 5 years, people are going to care.
Well, it's just sort of it's declaring your intention a little bit, isn't it? Because
yeah, but so what? I mean, I would hope an owner who takes over would say, I want to win the World Series in a certain point, right?
I don't know. I'm a little surprised that they actually got rid of both of them. Scherzer, it seemed like, of course, that was going to happen, but I was surprised they got rid of Verlander.
I'm curious on the other side of the glass. Does this feel like, am I crazy to say this feels like a good day for the Mets, or am I just being contrarian against the Mets?
It's the Mets. It doesn't matter. They can spend, they'll suck. They can go for prospects, they'll suck. It doesn't matter. It's the Mets.
Hey.
So, there's no good day or bad day.
Easy.
Wow. Now I feel like I'm middle of the road.
I'm sorry. Remind me again, which New York team has been in the World Series more recently?
Which one has won more recently?
Well,
which one beat the other in the World Series?
Okay, that was 23 years ago, but the last time the Yankees were in the World Series was?
2009, which they won.
And the last time the Mets were in the World Series?
They lost to the
2015.
Royals. The Royals.
I'd rather be knocked down the wild card round than lose a World Series to the Royals.
Listen. By the way, that was the Royals' back-to-back appearance in the World Series.
No, I'm totally joking.
Jeffrey Howell's in the chat. New York has the good fortune to have two major league teams, and they both suck.
Whoa, no, that's not fair, because you can't also forget that the Knicks suck too. So they have lots of protein.
Are you kidding? The Knicks look like the 27 Yankees compared to both of these teams.
And
the Knicks at least won a playoff series.
At least the Jets are going to win back-to-back Super Bowls, so that's good.
And I have a question too. If the Jets go 5-12, can we agree that all 31 other markets combine for a parade after the season, just to celebrate the overhypeness that is the New York Jets this year?
And is Sean Payton going to be their grand marshal?
Sean Payton could go now. You thought Sean Payton made a mistake. Now, if the Broncos go 3-14 and the Jets are losing, everyone's like, Sean Payton knew what he was talking about. Smart man. Yeah, I mean, I think I keep telling you, you build up these New York, not you, but people build up these New York teams and then just totally enjoy when they fall apart, just like today.
Okay. I would just like to point out, though, when you're ripping down and tearing down all these teams, what did the Mets do that was so obnoxious besides exist? The history of the franchise. I totally understand. The history of the franchise, we can go through the most embarrassing stuff year after year. But this group, the Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, this group, what have they done that's been Lindor and McNeil, got into a fight? That doesn't happen all the time.
Didn't Lindor call his own fans for booing?
Him and Javi Baez. It was more Javi Baez who did that, and they didn't sign him.
Well, whatever. You don't call it the fans. New Yorkers, we stick together.
Well, that's why they knew they had to get Javi Baez out of there.
I think a lot of people resent Steve Cohen, like just general, not him in particular, but just resent multi-billionaire hedge fund guys.
Nobody resents them more than me. I understand that. I think being a billionaire is immoral.
That's part of it, and I do think it's just it's an old stigma. I mean, you're right. Pete Alonso is awesome. I totally love home run hitters, but I don't, as a Phillies fan, I don't like the Mets. I do think it's just one of those things that endures through the old time. Why did people originally turn against the Mets? I actually don't even remember.
I mean, worst team money could buy in the early 90s, the being able to,
I think people turned against the Mets just because it was so fun to watch them collapse year after year.
Yeah, the 07 collapse was particularly bad.
It wasn't that they turned against them. The Mets just became like
the
a joke.
punchline.
Yeah, they became a punchline.
You want to know when it started? The year that the Mets came into existence. There is a great sports book called Can Anyone Here Play This Game? And it's about the first season that the Mets came into existence in the 60s and how totally awful they are. Jimmy Breslin wrote the book.
Right. And they had Willie Mays, right? And he was
later, and he was falling down in center field, and it was
that wasn't 62 they started, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then 69, though, they made the World Series.
They made the World Series.
So they had their up moments, but then they won famously in 86. Yeah, there is something. It's hard for me to separate.
Got there in 73.
Yeah, it's hard for me to separate. Like the Cubs lost for over a century, right? But they were the lovable Cubs, where the Mets lost and they weren't lovable.
No, there's many things that are very embarrassing with the Mets organization. If we want to go through history, tons of things. But
I actually don't even know them, but I feel that.
I mean,
I think
the Cliff Notes go from like very serious to very silly.
It's also it's clearly an anti-New York thing because the Yankees are the evil empire. I mean, what team is called the evil empire?
Well, they kind of wish they were the evil empire anymore.
They were. That was the key word. You're right. They aspire to go back to the evil empire days. So I think there's an anti-New York because I think there seems to be a common denominator. All the New York teams think that they can buy championships in the offseason. They don't.
No.
They're never allowed to build them organically because there's so much pressure to win immediately because it's such a big city.
Well, there's another thing that New York has, and I don't know if other markets have this too. There is a savior complex where free agents or big prospects or great draft picks, everyone's going to be the savior. Like Aaron Rodgers is having a little bit of that right now. There's a savior complex here. I'm sure it goes back further than that, but that was like a big Patrick Ewing thing, a savior complex. How many times does that happen? With these New York sports, and it's to put all those expectations on one person. It's rare. It's, I guess, like Wayne Gretzky, and Messier are probably the ones that came through. But it's hard.
I think the more common denominator is they spend like crazy to try to win.
You want to know why?
Yeah, I know why. It's the biggest city with the richest people in the country.
Exactly. The fan base demands it. That you have to spend because the tickets are so expensive. The parking, the food, everything is expensive. And if you expect us to pay for all this expensive stuff, then you can't cheap out on the team. That's kind of how I think people feel.
But the problem with that, then you might not build smartly. You might not be patient. Where this moves today seems really smart. Especially, I'm looking, I'm studying my brain. What's the guy's name? Billy McGilly. Who'd they get?
Billy McGilly.
Joey Lipper. What's this guy's name?
Drew Gilbert.
Gilbert. And
on top of that, they also got Ryan Clifford. Of course, we all know Ryan Clifford, who's the number 2 prospect in the Astros system. So
I love
1
and 2.
I love prospects with 2 first names.
Future Mets Hall of Famers.
And you got 2 of them. Drew Gilbert could be Gilbert Drew, and you got Ryan Clifford could be Clifford Ryan. This is coming up all Mets. No, but I'm being totally silly.
To point out.
Being totally silly, but I think this could end up being a great day for the Mets.
Another good idea from Jeffrey Howell in the chat: lovable teams. A list idea.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain
top 5 most lovable
whatever the
teams.
Ingredients are to be lovable. The Mets clearly don't have it.
See, depends on your point of view.
No, I mean
the 2015 Mets were very
point of view.
lovable.
Like you didn't grow up
Cespedes, like a midseason trade.
Nobody loved them.
I did.
Well, I mean, non-New Yorkers.
Joke's on me.
Honestly, I'm telling you, there's nobody in Wyoming who's like, I'm going to pick an MLB team. Let's go with the Mets. It just doesn't happen.
Pete Alonso, I think, has turned some people around.
I don't think so.
No.
I think there's a couple Lindor
There might be
fans
like
out
a
there.
couple people that he turned. There's like 6
literally
fans.
5 of them?
Yeah, there's like 6 people.
Well, how many people are in Wyoming?
Several.
You think Francisco
Yes,
Lindor's
several.
Met career has changed?
No, Francisco Lindor's Met career has been a disaster.
All right.
Worse than Scherzer's.
I feel like we need to
Just
start
longer.
over. Like we can't. It's hard for us to stay civil when the Mets come up because Maggie gets so upset. I mean, that's just a fact, and I love that as a fan. It's perfect. But it's just you adding this energy of just like frustration to the day already.
Well, I'm sorry. I mean, things have not gone well, and I thought they were going to keep Verlander, so there we go. So I'm a little off now.
We were recording the pre-show podcast today, and it broke in the middle of it, and I just lost Maggie.
Yeah.
So it's just like the anger. I could see you made a fist and you banged the desk subtly.
Oh my gosh. Also, I don't appreciate that Delta 9 Brian said in the chat that I look like I'm a guest host on Blue's Clues today because of my shirt.
Oh, the shirt.
I look like Steve from Blue's Clues, don't I?
It's like a shirt he would wear, yeah.
I mean, I'm just like,
My wife worked on Blues.
Today.
My wife worked on Blues Clues. I know she's not listening right now. She said Steve hit on her all the time.
That is not surprising.
Steve's the first guy, right?
Steve's the first guy. Josh is the current guy. Josh, way too professional.
I feel like Steve, I remember reading he became like a rock band.
A musician, yeah.
They brought him back for the movie. I know this. I have a 4-year-old.
There's a movie?
Yeah, I've seen it 15 times.
Would he wear shirts like that?
He's
wore
wearing a
that
trench
exact
coat
shirt.
and because he's Detective Blue.
I think he actually wore that exact shirt. Maggie may have gotten it
Guys,
off auction.
take it up with Zara, okay? It's not like I'm buying things in the bargain basement. It's like fashionable clothes, okay?
We need a reset for Maggie. We desperately need something.
Laura said it's okay, Maggie. It'll all be okay. You don't know that, Laura.
Yeah.
I love you, but you don't know that.
No,
You know
Laura's-
Maggie's got off the deep end when she's yelling at the Weedos.
No. Laura's perceptive. Today is more of an intervention than a radio show.
No. The Bill season hasn't even started yet.
Yeah, but they're good. At least you have a chance with them. Wait, how many games did the Mets win last year?
I don't want to talk about this, Perloff. 101.
100, yeah.
And how far are they get in the playoffs? I just want to
because of
refresh the audience.
Max Scherzer. Because no thanks to Max Scherzer, they lost at the wild card to the Padres.
Deep breath.
You know, listen.
She's doing breathing exercises. Like this is gone way too
My
far.
acupuncturist is going to be here in 10 minutes. You guys don't mind if I just get some work done during the show, do you?
I want a camera on Maggie when Drew Gilbert hits a grand slam to win in the divisional round, and I just want to be there and say, I told you this guy could play.
Yeah. In the year 2030, when I've renounced my Mets fandom for good. I'm just kidding. I can't quit you. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Well, thank you for the Weedos. I don't mean to yell. I'm sorry. I lost my cool there for a second. It's not your fault. It's my fault for believing in this team.
It's really the Mets' fault.
Yeah, well, and let's see what happens with Buck Showalter. Yikes.
Wait, Buck Showalter's still the manager there? No.
Not still. He's only 2 years in. He wasn't manager of the year last year. That's when you knew it was headed downhill. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Well, we had all these other things to talk about, including Perloff and I don't see eye to eye on what's going on with Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos. So we'll get to that. Also, Rivalry Week continues. Today we're doing greatest college football rivalry of all time. And then later on in the show, greatest music rivalry of all time. So we got a lot going on today. The latest is Justin Verlander was traded to the Astros. But we have so much more football to get to in just moments. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. Remaining. "45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to Maggie and Perloff. Before we dive into our great sports debate, Rivalry Week, college football edition, there's some important science that has come out today that I think we need to share.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a very scientific survey.
This isn't about climate change or anything.
It's a wide-ranging survey on sandwiches.
Oh, good.
So they surveyed over 2,000 Americans. 2 in 3 Americans say they could live on sandwiches alone for a full week, according to the research.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, I am also one of them. I think that'd be a great week to eat nothing but sandwiches. In fact, I might try it.
I mean, it's such a variety. You got breakfast sandwiches like bacon, egg, and cheeses.
Ooh, I don't know. Okay. There's nothing about breakfast sandwiches. That seems
That's a sandwich.
All right,
a bacon, egg, and cheese is definitely a sandwich. It's on an English muffin or a bagel.
But you wouldn't say that's an egg and cheese. Well, you'd say that's a breakfast sandwich. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
I'll allow it.
Okay. And then lunch, you're open, and dinner, you're open for whatever.
So there's more research here. The perfect sandwich, according to the survey, consists of tomato, cheddar cheese, and Black Forest ham. Now that's not my perfect sandwich. It sounds great. I would totally eat that. I like ham and cheese. But I'm more of a turkey guy. Which way do you lean?
Yeah, I'm not a big ham person. Turkey, more likely. I also don't mind a roast beef sandwich, I guess. But I think tomatoes can be tricky because they can get soggy and they can really soggy up your bread.
I hear you. I love tomatoes. I would always include that. Fan favorite ingredients include barbecue sauce, mayonnaise, honey mustard. All are 68% people like. Least favorite on a sandwich is ranch. What? Who puts ranch on a sandwich?
I don't know. Can you do a wrap?
I guess. Yeah, I guess you could do ranch.
No, a wrap, like a
Is a wrap a sandwich?
A chicken Caesar wrap? Of course it is.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, then is a hot dog a sandwich? This old debate?
I don't want to go through that.
There are 2 cheeses at the top. I don't think you guys will be able to guess which they are.
Provolone.
No, that's a good one.
Not
Pepper
cheddar?
jack?
Not cheddar.
Pepper jack?
American's got to be up there.
American is one.
I mean,
Mozzarella.
Let's be honest. American cheese is not even cheese,
No,
but
it's
damn,
cheese
it's
product,
good.
yes.
It is so good.
Yeah, and the little plastic wrappers on it, and that sound when you take that cheese off.
It's undefeated.
Swiss is tied. Swiss and American. The least favorite is Gruyere. I don't know.
Who's asking
seems
for
like,
that?
Yeah, seems like Gruyere is taking an unfair bullet here in this.
All right.
Whole wheat bread is top choice for the bread, followed by sourdough, multigrain. I think people are lying here because nobody has white bread. And also 60% like their sandwich toasted. I'm in that 60%.
I like that too.
There we go. Okay.
What about peanut butter and jelly? Is it anywhere on there?
That is not the kind of sandwiches they seem to be talking about. Because there are all these pictures of like ham sandwiches and turkey sandwiches. I think that's a great addition.
I mean, a PB&J, now you and I have unfortunately ruined that for ourselves in a variety of ways.
I get down 9 PB&Js right now.
Well, I still haven't had jelly.
Another food challenge? You got the Philly cheesesteaks first before you hit the...
Yeah,
and the Skyline chili. We've got it's backed up on the food challenge.
I don't want to complicate matters, but I don't think that a cheesesteak and a breakfast sandwich is what they're talking about here. I think
I got to eat tuna fish sandwich 3 days a week?
I think these are all sandwich adjacent in a weird way. I mean, I'm not getting into it. Is a hot dog a sandwich? That debate's been done. That's the LeBron Jordan of sandwich debates.
Yeah.
But I don't
We're doing that next week.
They have a bunch of pictures here, and they don't have eggs and cheese, and they don't have cheesesteak. So I don't know if that counts.
All right, let's get to the Great Debate Series.
The Great Debate Series. Best sports rivalries.
All right, well, today we're tackling college football, no pun intended, and the greatest rivalry in the history of college football. Perloff, would you like me to go first?
Yeah, because I can't wait to hear your alternative answer here.
The greatest rivalry in the history of college football is Army-Navy. This is the rivalry that means the most to most Americans. You want to know why? Because we don't take our freedom for granted, that's why. And because one day of the year, we can all thank the service academies and show our gratitude to the service academies for what they do on a daily basis. The sacrifice, putting themselves before us. To be able to, on just one day, Perloff, we should do it more, but one day in sports, to say thank you to the midshipmen, to the cadets.
This is pathetic.
The pomp and circumstance would take even someone, the most blackened heart person, the person who's given up on America, will turn them back into a patriot.
You're using the patriot card to try to win this argument here.
It's not a card.
Well, first of all, I don't hear the word rivalry in there.
Okay. Well, you want to go back to the 1800s where this rivalry goes back to.
It's not what's the most appreciated series in sports. It's what's the biggest rivalry.
Okay.
And I understand the Navy and Army are rivals, but you just had a bunch of reasons that have nothing to do with rivalries.
Well, I think what's so cool about it is on that day, they're really fiercely fighting against each other, and all of the alumni of the West Point and the Naval Academy, and everyone has their sides. But as soon as the game's over, it's back together as one, and I think that's a really cool message. Plus, you get like the flyover is cool, the Army paratroopers that jump out of planes is really cool.
Yeah, it's all awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
And it's not all about like who's going to the NFL and who's going to get drafted and whether you can make the college football playoff and whose coach is going to get $1 million gajillion dollar raise after this. It's actually about the game and about the people playing the game.
Okay. Rich Ackerman.
Hello.
What's the number one rivalry in college football?
Michigan, Ohio State.
Of course. Because any college football fan thinks that. I love Army Navy. It's great. But the bottom line is everyone secretly knows everyone in the Navy and everyone in the Army would kill for each other. That is not. Everyone in Michigan, Ohio State rivalry would actually kill each other. That's what a rivalry is.
That doesn't make it better.
A rivalry is something where you are consumed with hatred all year long, where all you think about is, I have to beat this team, where your coach is judged by only one thing, where there's actual pressure to win against your rival, whereas you don't necessarily have that in Army Navy. Ohio State, Michigan, guys, everybody's legacy is defined by that. And, of course, they're at a much higher stake of football. This is elite teams. I mean, Michigan and Ohio State were both in the Final Four last year. This is not only is it the number one rivalry in college football, it's absolutely, without even a doubt in my mind, the number one rivalry in American sports. I don't think there's anything close because I think Duke, North Carolina has fallen off. Michigan, Ohio State, when they did this ESPN commercial about rivalries a couple years ago, they featured Michigan, Ohio State, where there was a couple and one Michigan fan kicked an Ohio State fan out of the car. It was hysterical because we all know, you're talking about rivalry, you're talking about sports hatred. And you're talking about Ohio State, Michigan.
Okay, but all those things that you just said about Ohio State, Michigan, I could apply to Texas, Oklahoma.
Nope.
And I can apply to USC and Notre Dame. And
Nope.
I can apply to a lot of other pure football rivalries where it's all just about the football and the stakes of football, and this is about football plus when you're talking about Army-Navy. It's like it kind of hovers, in my opinion, above all those other just football rivalries. Go ahead, have your college football playoff, have your $1 million contracts, go to the NFL, have your draft picks. This is about something more and greater.
So you're saying USC Notre Dame is the same as Ohio State?
How about
Michigan?
Auburn, Alabama? Like,
that one I'll talk about.
Legacies are made off of that, just like they're made off of Ohio State, Michigan.
So you're saying young kids in LA grow up getting together as a family, like, oh, now it's time to watch the USC Notre Dame game, like Ohio State and Michigan. It defines two whole states. Presidential candidates go in there, and all they talk about is the Wolverines and the Buckeyes.
Do you want to talk about presidential candidates talking about a football game? I bet I can find a million of them talking about Army Navy.
And
also,
whose side are they on?
Okay, but here's the thing.
They're pro Army Navy.
How about, can you go back to Jackie Kennedy saying that they should play that game after the assassination of John F. Kennedy? This is like part of history that's beyond football.
But is the question, what's the biggest game or what's the most intense rivalry?
We're talking about greatest rivalries.
Right. So obviously Michigan-Ohio State is the greatest college football rivalry.
Wrong.
Where's Samter from the top rope? Okay.
Yeah,
Where'd you come from?
Army-Navy's fine, and Michigan-Ohio State, I feel like on the East Coast we kind of really we dive into that one, but Auburn-Alabama is by far and away the most passionate fan base of people who just live and die. Some guy went to prison for poisoning a tree. Like,
that was such a shame.
They hate each other. I mean, this is in state, right? It's right. So it's two schools in Alabama. It's the SEC. It's Southern football. There's nothing close to Auburn, Alabama. Listen, I think Michigan, Ohio State is second, but it is nowhere close. Plus, Ohio State dominated that for years and years and years. It wasn't even.
What do you think
rivalry.
Alabama's doing?
Alabama Auburn has been closer with those two teams. Now, maybe Alabama's been the better program, but that game, the Iron Bowl, has been close, much closer than the game with Ohio State and Michigan, where Ohio State won like 13 straight or something. It's not even close.
Well, I would say one thing, too. Doesn't Alabama have a few rivalries going on now? Not like that. I understand.
Well, Alabama-Georgia's become something, but that's...
I know Alabama-LSU.
Yeah. But Alabama-Auburn, there's nothing close in the SEC.
Georgia,
and the
Florida?
SEC is the king.
Well, Georgia-Florida is a bigger party. But
yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah. But is the Iron Bowl as big a deal as Michigan-Ohio State?
No. Yes.
And what about if you want to
get out of here?
Like, that's the thing though about these are just the football rivalries where we can say, well, it's Cal Stanford, well, it's the Iron Bowl, but that just it ends at football. Army Navy doesn't end at football.
It's almost as if that belongs in a standalone category of rivalry.
Above.
Just the way the game is standalone. It's played like after the regular season, and that's the way it should be in a separate category.
But I think that adds to my argument. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Okay. I think that adds to my argument because the Iron Bowl, there's other games that go on same weekend of the Iron Bowl.
But this argument that Michigan-Ohio State is the same as these other rivalries does not ring true at all to me. You said USC Notre Dame and Cal Stanford. Those are great rivalries. There's tons of great rivalries. Michigan-Ohio State is completely different. Just all-consuming for those states who are arguably they're two of the biggest football states there are. I mean, Army-Navy is a huge event, and it's super special. But, I mean, if you're talking about great rivalries, I don't even put it in my top 10 because it does, as Rich has said very well, it doesn't belong in the list with other kind of rivalries. It's a different thing altogether.
I think it belongs there, and it belongs at the top of the list, but it's about you. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Christopher Walker in the chat, Oregon State. It's a Civil War. We can do the Civil War, we do the Apple Cup, and that's the thing. You do the Egg Bowl. You got, everyone's got their thing.
Oh, yeah.
Does it make it the greatest?
I mean, Oregon, you're right. You know what?
Oregon State's great.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon State is definitely bigger than Michigan-Ohio State.
I never said bigger.
I mean, I feel like we can rank them based off of the name of the rivalry game.
Or what they give.
Given off, like Michigan, or Wisconsin and Minnesota with the axe. Yeah. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, what they give after the game, like the oak barrel and all that stuff, that is a huge factor. What's the Washington State? That's a
Apple Cup.
The Apple Cup. Oh, I love it. All the nicknames are great.
Except for Ohio State, Michigan, the game. Can you get any less original?
Well, I mean, the game, the big house. I mean,
the game. We're going to watch the game.
They just got very simple there. It doesn't mean it's bad, but for Army Navy, that's where I stand. Perloff says Ohio State, Michigan. We want to hear from you. Samter says Iron Bowl, Auburn, Alabama.
Yale.
Harvard, Yale for acronym.
Harvard, Yale could compete with Army Navy, by the way.
That's in a separate category, too. It's a really good rivalry,
nerd
though.
Category.
It's a great game.
I don't see anyone at Army Navy who has less than a 4.2 in high school either. That's
I know they have to. Yeah. Thankfully, those are the people on the front line. I don't want any Blutarskis on the front line. I want the everyone.
The creme de la creme.
Yeah, only the best students. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Okay, let us know what you think later on in the show. We'll do the greatest music rivalry of all time because we're going to do one sports and one non-sports rivalry every day. Coming up, we got the latest with the Cowboys. Get to that after this CBS Sports Update. Here's Rich Ackman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Save when you bundle motorcycle, RV, and boat insurance. Visit Progressive.com. We've already seen lots of deals in baseball over the last week. We now have the big one today with Justin Verlander heading back to Houston. The Mets used the term of transition phase and have now shipped off 6 Cy Young Awards over the last few days. Verlander returns to a familiar landing spot in the Astros, looking to spark a team that is just a half game off the lead in the AL West. Of course, when he arrived there in 2017, he won 5 games in the regular season and led them to their first championship. The Mets will receive the Astros' top prospect in Drew Gilbert, plus another minor leaguer, Ryan Clifford, who is the 3rd-ranked prospect in the organization. The Blue Jays adding infield depth in the wake of Bo Bichette's injury, acquiring Paul DeJong from the Cardinals. The Padres picked up Rich Hill and Ji-Man Choi from the Pirates. The Rockies sent reliever Brad Hand to the Braves. And the Phillies are reportedly in agreement with a deal with the Tigers on a deal that will give them Michael Lorenzen. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Looking for CBS Sports Radio online? Your favorite hosts and the best sports content and entertainment are available 24/7 on social media and YouTube and in the palm of your hand with the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the Armed Forces, DoD veterans, and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. Navy Federal Defensive Player of the...
Okay, I'm going to take a guess.
Baseball? Yeah.
I'm going with Alyssa Nair, who is the U.S. women's goalie, who is actually... I might have mispronounced her name. I apologize. I think she's still the goalie. She went to high school with Dan Patrick's kids in Connecticut.
Is that right?
Yeah. And Dan knew her whole life. She came on last time, and since it was a shutout in the middle of the night, I'm hoping she did very well.
Oh,
so that's my guess.
But Carly Lloyd said the player of the match last night was the goalpost.
I was actually thinking about the goalpost, too, based on that
I thought
quote.
maybe Stu would make it the goalpost.
Yeah, she didn't have an official save, so I think it would be hard for me to give her that.
Oh, she didn't have
Such
a single
prestigious award.
Well, trust me, my original instinct was to go Hope Solo, because whenever I think of American goal. But,
she's been retired for a while.
All right. So is it?
It's baseball related.
It's baseball related.
Baseball related. It's not.
It's
just
baseball. It's a baseball player.
It's baseball adjacent.
Is that like pickleball is related to tennis?
Cricket.
Okay. Baseball related. You know what? I didn't watch SportsCenter's top 10 plays as carefully this week. Give us a hit. Oh, Nolan Arenado.
It is not. Same division though as Nolan Arenado, so NL Central related player.
Some dude on, I don't know, Brewers.
The Brewers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So this week's player, it is Mike Tauchman of the Cubs. Now in Friday's game against the Cardinals, Chicago had a 3-2 lead with a runner on third and 2 outs in the ninth, and then this happened.
Adbert fires. In the air, center field. Tauchman back some more near the wall, and he caught it. What a grab!
Oh, yes, he did. Oh,
holy cow! He saved the game. Mike Tauchman with a game-saving grab over the wall, and the Cubs win.
Cub players are pouring onto the field as if they just won the pennant.
Yeah, it's a great play. Robbed a home run, and it gave the Cubs their 7th straight win and probably stopped them from being a seller at the deadline and made them a buyer.
Wow. Mike Tauchman, former Yankee.
Yankee great.
By the way, Nolan Arenado had a sick play. I don't know if you guys saw this. It was insane. Might be passing my guy Mike Schmidt as the best third baseman of all time.
You're ready to do that?
Ooh. Well, Brooks Robinson, him.
Yeah.
He's been in the news a lot. Like, apparently, he's just so much better statistically than any third baseman. But I think that's a recency bias. You don't remember Mike Schmidt as a third baseman, do you? No, you miss it.
I was able to catch up after the fact, but no.
I don't really know either. Yeah. But he did this thing where he would, anytime he could barehand the ball, you know when a third baseman does, it's the best play a third baseman can do. Yeah. Anything he could barehand and rifle over, he would do.
I think also third base, low-key scariest position to play in sports.
Terrifying.
No chance a regular person lasts out there. You'd be dead.
Oh, my God. If somebody turned on a fastball and hit it your way.
It's like, here you go. Here's what you can protect yourself with. Here's a glove. That's all you get. It's like, I'm sorry, what?
The other thing, in Little League, when you're playing third base or shortstop, the throw to first base is the longest throw in the history of the world.
They make it look so easy.
I know. It's amazing how good they are because when you're at a game and you see how far the shortstop throws the ball. Anyway.
It's always right on the money. Let's go to the phones. 855-212-4CBS. It's our great debate series continues. It's rivalry week here on the Maggie and Perloff show. Today we're doing college football. Greatest college football rivalry. Perloff went with, a little something called Ohio State, Michigan. I went with Army, Navy. Adrian's in Maryland's got a thought. Hi, Adrian. How are you?
Hey, guys. Happy Taco Tuesday, I guess, here. Mm-hmm. Maggie, what's your Army-Navy game? You guys both have good points. The Army-Navy game, problem is the scoring. You know, you could tune into it, and it's 6-3. Tune in probably another 2 hours later, it's still 6-3. That's one of the problems.
Well, they're still running the option, so, you know.
Yeah, I know. But how can Navy score a whole bunch of points against these other teams, but they can't score anything against Army? That's the problem.
The rivalry, that's how intense it is, Adrian. Who do you think is the best college football rivalry?
I think it's Auburn, Alabama. It's just a backyard brawl, and the games are always good, no matter who's good or who's bad that year. That guy that when they kicked off, well, they tried to kick the field goal and he ran it back for a touchdown.
Yeah,
that
kick
was amazing. Maggie, I want to get to your Mets there. If they trade Pete and get the prospect, and I heard they could try to re-sign him back after that year, after this year.
And just
that's good thinking there.
Yeah, I mean, but again, a risk because you let your guy go to free agency, and you don't show him the love he might want, and someone else might outbid you. It almost happened with the Yankees and Aaron Judge. Remember, the Giants were right there.
He's a hometown hero,
yeah.
Pete. So you get the prospect, and you give him a little side eye, say, hey, we're going to try to re-sign you if you want to come back here. Then you get the prospect, and you have him back.
And you could re-sign him. Yeah, it's a little what the Yankees did with Aroldis Chapman long ago when the Cubs, and then they signed him back again. Adrian, thank you so much for the phone call. Appreciate that. Yeah, the hatred aspect of Ohio State, Michigan, and Auburn, Alabama is clearly on a different level.
Right, well, which I think is the most important part of a rivalry.
It is, but, Rich Ackerman and I continued to talk about this in the break, and he said, don't forget, whenever you talk to the coaches or whatever from Army, Navy, it's always go Army, beat Navy.
Yeah.
They're always go Navy, beat Army. It's never just, Broncos country, let's ride. It's beat the other team.
If you looked at the more mainstream ones, the hatred between Michigan and Ohio State just, for me, takes it to a whole nother level. There are a lot of schools that hate each other, and obviously Alabama, Auburn, but Michigan, Ohio State, they are, from day one out of the crib, they hate each other.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227 if you want to weigh in. Coming up, we will get to the Cowboys, and we'll get to the latest coach to clap back at Sean Payton. Whoa.
3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Anybody have the financial security that they can do the right thing in that case? Because it's not the wrong thing to keep the ball. That's what most of us would do. Am I being totally
doing the right
here?
thing is like, going to a soup kitchen or donating to charity. Giving a souvenir to a soon-to-be multimillionaire is not the right thing.
I don't know if it's necessarily the right thing to do to give it back, because if I'm in your shoes, I might keep it. I wouldn't feel good about it. I don't know.
13-year-old Mike Samter is absolutely giving that ball to Derek Jeter or whoever. 40-whatever-year-old Samter. There's bills to pay. You have responsibilities. You've got kids.
Then what are you doing at a Reds game on a Wednesday night? You got all these responsibilities and all these bills to pay.
They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Welcome to the show, Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Got so much to do and very little time, so let's get to it. We are in the middle of rivalry week here on the Maggie and Perloff show. Yesterday, we did greatest NFL rivalry. Today, we're doing college football. We'll add a non-sports rivalry on a little bit later in the show, greatest music rivalry of all time. So we'll get to that in just a moment. But quickly, before we get to the calls and we see you guys there, we want to get you weighing in on these great college football rivalries. A quick update on this never-ending saga between Sean Payton and the New York Jets. Again, two teams with not a ton of history between each other, and now it's growing by the day. So we all know Sean Payton had some very pointed words for the Jets coaching staff, particularly Nathaniel Hackett, saying it was the worst coaching job in the history of the NFL. Rodgers then defended Nathaniel Hackett vigorously. That was Sunday. on NFL Network. Today, Nathaniel Hackett faced the media, and here's what he said about the comments.
As a coach, as a coach's kid, we live in a glass house. We all live in different rooms. We all got a key for it. And it's one of those things that there's a code, there's a way things are done in that house. And, this past week, it's frustrating and it sucks. It's unfortunate that had to happen, the comments that were made. But, hey, they did.
All right, so he's saying, listen, we're all people, and coaches are all people in glass houses. You know what they say, shouldn't throw stones, and Sean Payton broke the code.
Yeah, here's how I would have done it. If I could do a little screenwriting for Nathaniel Hackett, Jets offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
No one is more upset about what happened in Denver than me last year. I was so disappointed that we couldn't put together a winning team for such an awesome fan base, and it eats me up. And listen, Sean Payton's entitled to his opinion. What he does over there has nothing to do with us. I'm just trying to do the best job I can for the Jets. And then you secretly, you sort of sit on that resentment and you build into fury, and then you take it out on the football field. Because he says there's a code in the NFL. Yeah, the code isn't, you don't say it in a press conference. You hit the other guy on the football field. I know he's a coach. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You're supposed to take it out all on the field. That's a great thing about football. It's not supposed to play out in the press.
We're talking through our feelings these days.
That is ridiculous. What are they doing here? Every great team ever wins a Super Bowl and then says, nobody believed. Then they reveal all the bulletin board material they've been secretly accumulating. They don't bring it out in the beginning of the season and just admit it. And what's he talking about? Code? I mean, I don't know. That dude, he broke the code by going for that 64-yard field goal against the Seahawks in Week 1. I think he really should have, always just own your own failures and don't deflect to someone else. A good coach will always say it's not about what they say. Yeah. It's about what we do. And I felt like he was, I understand his frustration. Like, don't say that. Just say, listen, we're focused on here. Give the cliches.
Yeah. I understand Rodgers defending Hackett. I kind of love that. I'm not a fan of Hackett's coaching, but I do like Rodgers defending Hackett because that's his guy. He really does love this dude, and Sean Payton took a shot and he defended him. But I'm kind of with you on Hackett, and I hope I don't sound hypocritical here, but isn't there another code that you're also breaking at the moment by going up to the podium and acknowledging how hurt you were by these comments?
Yeah, it's weird.
I'm not saying we can't talk about our feelings. I was just kidding before. You can talk through them. But I don't know if I'd give Sean Payton the satisfaction.
That's great way to say it.
That's what I wouldn't want to do if I were Nathaniel Hackett. I'm not going to let you know that you bothered me. Nathaniel Hackett got up to the press conference and didn't even take a question. He just said, all right, let's get some things off my chest. It's it's a big story. It's not that big, It's
well, if you're Nathaniel Hackett, I think
it's huge for you.
Really, I would
wait for someone to ask me the question. Listen, we got a lot going on here at Jets camp. So this is one thing, but we got a lot going on. This isn't occupying every Sean Payton doesn't live rent free in my brain. Instead, he admitted that he is.
One thing he could have done is said, a lot of the coaching staff below me put in hard work last year, and I don't want you to disrespect them. That would put him more like Rodgers defending somebody else, which is much cooler.
Right.
But even Rodgers,
stick up for the little guy.
You know how Rodgers can really get redemption here is win. Stay healthy, which is a big deal. He's not a young quarterback. And then I think he can help Nathaniel Hackett get the last laugh here. If they go 13-4 and get to the conference title game, then that'll really stick it to Sean Payton.
Yeah.
And if Sean Payton even remembers those comments by then, because I think he's going to have plenty to do in Denver and not have to worry about the Jets.
Well, you never know with the old latte defense. We don't know what Sean Payton could be eating or drinking tomorrow that's going to somehow erase his memory. He said he drank too many lattes before he gave those incendiary comments.
That's what I keep saying. The Jets have a much, much bigger problem than Denver, and that is Buffalo in Week 1, and Denver's got a way bigger problem. That's called Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, because they have to play those teams twice. I know they play Week 5, but I would sort of buckle down and say, let's get to business and worry about Week 1 here, game at a time. I know, I love when coaches are honest, but this is a time for cliches.
Yeah, several codes being broken, I think, is the bottom line. And don't forget, we get to relive this again next week if you're going to watch Hard Knocks. So we get all of this drummed up again. We'll get the behind the scenes. So, and just in case you thought this was over, 855-212-4CBS. Now, we've been doing Rivalry Week here on the show. Greatest college football rivalries of all time. Perloff?
Michigan, Ohio State.
You would. I went with Army Navy.
Yeah. I would have the right answer, just like me.
Well, I went for something a little more different, a little unique, and something that's about a little bit more than just football. Alec is in Tucson, Arizona, has a thought on great college football rivalries. Hi, Alec. How are you?
Hi, how's it going?
Great.
I love your guys' show. I listen to it all the time.
Thank you.
My take would be something completely different. A conference that's trying to survive, which is the Pac-12. This would be Arizona State versus Arizona football.
You know, Alec,
real quick, how intense does that get? I was
going to go to Samter for this one.
It gets pretty intense. I mean, I myself, I'm an Arizona State fan, love Frank Kush era and all that, and I can tell you that wherever the games are, there's always some buses that have graffiti on them, or it's a crazy game.
There you go, Alec. Thank you, and thank you for watching the show. All right, Mike Samter spent some time in Arizona. Your take on Arizona State as the greatest college football rivalry of all time.
I mean, I was part of
Tell
it.
us
I
what
went
you really
to all
think.
the games.
Yeah.
I had a lot of friends who are Arizona people. I still talk trash, ASU versus Arizona, but to compare it to even the fans in Arizona, it's kind of like a fun thing to do because why not? We need to have something, but it's nothing compared to even Oregon State, but it's nothing compared to the big rivalries.
The little update there, the Pac-12, according to Pete Thamel, looks like it could be going to all streaming in their next media rights deal.
Larry Scott ruined that conference.
I mean, go to all streaming.
Yikes.
That's well, listen, it's the future, but to go there now is tough, I think. Anyway, we'll get into that some other time. Daryl is in Oregon, has a thought on these college football rivalries. Hello, Daryl. How are you?
Hello. Thanks for allowing my call. I think bottom line here is location. I mean, you got Michigan, Iowa State, you got Army, Navy. I mean, if you're in the Army, you're with the Army. If you're in the Navy, you're with the Navy. And if you're neither, then you don't give a diddly damn. It's location. I'm in Oregon State and U of O are 45 miles apart, and the Civil War is a huge rivalry in this state. Everyone in the state is one or the other. And I think it's the same with Alabama and all that. There's a ton of wonderful, great rivalries that go back.
Yeah, Daryl, I agree with you. I do think location has a lot to do with it. That's where these things are spawned. Thank you so much for the phone call and being a part of the show. Did he say, I don't give a diddly damn? Mm-hmm. Has anyone ever heard that saying before? Also, I would disagree. I think that Army-Navy, there's a reason why it is a standalone game. It's because it gives, all of college football gives it the respect that it deserves to be a standalone game.
Well, Michigan-Ohio State's basically a standalone game.
Yeah,
anyway.
because it's right after Thanksgiving. I know.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike in California is our pal. What's up, Mike? How are you?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. How you been?
I'm good. So I'm calling to say Maggie's rights. And I can come from a different perspective on this one. As an Army veteran and somebody who never before I was in the military would have ever rooted for Army. I went to a private military school for high school also for 4 years. And that rivalry that you create when you're going cadet versus cadet or academy versus academy is insane. But more importantly is the day of that game, you got to remember that there's hundreds of thousands of people who have served in the Army or in the Navy who went to a school completely different than either the Naval Academy or West Point. And that day, all those other alliances go away. You're only fighting for Navy or you're only fighting for Army. So I think that it surpasses even the school bounds and even the quote-unquote fan bounds. It goes all the way through generations of military personnel and who your family served with. It's completely different. And I think that while it is completely different, it goes to show how that's much more of an intense rivalry than any of these other schools could ever have, because neither one of the programs have to be great for it to be a great rivalry. If any of these other schools tapered off or weren't as good anymore, the rivalry would die off and it wouldn't be as important. These schools could both be terrible. As long as they win that game, that's all they care about.
Mike, beautifully said. Thank you so much. Incredible points there, which I didn't even, one that I could only read about or learn about, but wouldn't know specifically is, yes, it's not just about the people who attended West Point or the Naval Academy. It's everyone who served in those branches, Army or Navy, all take a side that day. It's so true. And he's right. These teams sometimes do not come into that game with very good records. Meanwhile, if Auburn's having a down year, it doesn't make the Iron Bowl. It takes a little of the juice out of the Iron Bowl.
I think the Iron Bowl is down. Michigan-Ohio State, though, is recession-proof because it's such a big rivalry.
But also, I can't even remember the last time, one of those programs was really down.
Yeah, that's true. I think Auburn is – I was about to say when Mike was saying Alabama-Auburn, Auburn's recent slight downturn was enough to, I don't remember even having to tune into that game as much. Because they seem to be flip-flopping. When Cam was really good at Auburn, Alabama had a slight dip. I don't know. I feel like right now, Georgia and Alabama and LSU and Alabama are so big. It feels like Alabama is that singular force. When anybody plays Alabama, it feels like a rivalry game.
Yeah.
And Michigan and Ohio State are both great teams, too, but they're both defined by each other. Army-Navy, too, obviously. I mean, listen, Army, I'm sure if I look at their schedule, there's one game that stands out and vice versa for Navy. It's like Navy, Air Force. I don't circle that on my calendar.
It's only that game. Vinny is in Arizona, has another college football rivalry we have not talked about. Hi, Vinny. How are you?
Good. Thank you for taking my call. How are you guys?
We're doing great.
So, real quick, my college one would probably have to be USC, UCLA.
Okay. I mean, it's a great one. Why do you say so?
Growing up, my papa was a huge USC fan, so he kind of taught me at an early age to hate UCLA. Okay. Never really got a good reason why other than because it's UCLA.
Sure. That's enough.
But, just doing research on it and whatnot, UCLA would not really compete well against USC back in the 60s, 70s. And then once they started getting better, USC kind of fell off a little bit, so they were kind of getting their revenge and everything. But, I guess just because they're so close in, the L.A. area as well, it's kind of like the White Sox and the Cubs.
Yep.
You got the north side, south side kind of thing.
Vinny, thank you for the phone call, and thank you for putting that one on the board, USC, UCLA. Now they're both going to go to the Big Ten. We'll see how it goes from there.
You know what the problem with that is? UCLA doesn't seem to invest enough into their football program. Now Chip Kelly, I think, has done a great job there, but they're not. It doesn't feel like that school is all in on football. So I think that's sort of taken a little bit out of that. Where Alabama, Auburn, Michigan, Ohio State, you can't be more all in. I know that sounds kind of harsh, but I'm sure it's great. And the other thing, too, is if you have other rivals, you need one rival. To get to the top of the list, you need one. You can't have multiple rivals.
Michigan State, is that not also a secondary rival?
Oh, God. Shut up, Sam.
Because the USC Notre Dame, what do they call it? The little brother. That's what Michigan calls it.
Well, so
actually, Michigan doesn't consider Michigan State the rival.
No, but Ohio State, up until very, very recently, probably didn't consider Michigan much of a rival. From 2004 to 2019, Michigan won exactly one game.
Yeah,
we're all well aware of that.
One game.
Yeah, because we talked about it all the time. Because it's the greatest rivalry in sports. It's definitely, and I don't even think you cannot argue there's a more intense. All right, forget. We're going to take Army Navy off the table for a second. Okay. Is there more intense hatred in all of American sports than Michigan and Ohio State?
Duke UNC?
I think Duke UNC has been watered down in recent years because college basketball has fallen off a little bit.
Yankees Red Sox used to be, but that's kind of watered down.
Well, and it used to be to the point where it was it's getting a little over the top.
Oh, yeah.
People in the stands fighting all the time. Dodgers Giants is like that, where it got a little over the top.
That's some hatred. You're right. That's a good one.
And there's some serious consequences from that.
If you're talking about greatest rivalries, yes, Army Navy certainly in that. But as far as pure hatred of the other team, it's way up there.
See, and that's the thing. You say the word hatred. I don't think Army, Navy, they don't hate each other.
Yeah.
They're brothers in arms. They're just
that one day. One day.
But there's not a there's not a hatred there. There's a hatred.
Thankfully, there's not that much of a hatred because those people also need to protect our borders.
Yeah. Right. So when I think of rivalry, I think of hate. So Army Navy, it's a beautiful pageantry. It's a great game. There's something special about it, but there's not hate there. There's love there. It's almost like let's love each other, but let's on this day be combatants. Whereas Michigan, Ohio State Auburn, Alabama.
Well, that's why
Auburn, Alabama is some real hatred.
Real hate.
But see, that's why sometimes when the basis of it is actually love, it makes it even crazier. Like the biggest undefeated rivalry is sibling rivalry, because there's actually love at the foundation. But man, that can be tough.
No, not with me and my brothers. Pure hate.
I'll give you an example. A lot of times the Army-Navy game is in Philadelphia. Used to be Veterans Stadium and then Lincoln Financial. If you go to an Army-Navy game, you're perfectly safe in the parking lot. If you go to an Eagles-Giants game and you're driving a New York license plate, your car is going to get destroyed when you go inside the stadium. That is hatred.
That's because Eagles fans are nuts.
Yeah, but Army-Navy, they're just politely, they would probably, a Navy guy be like, I'd watch your car. Good luck out there.
Only an Eagles fan would, use that as an example in, a positive way.
Yeah.
This is how good the rivalry is. You can't even park your car in the parking lot. What are you, proud of that?
Mike talked about the great example for Alabama-Auburn was someone poisoned a tree. He's like, let's go.
The guy got arrested and sent to prison for a felony.
I was down in Auburn when that happened, right after, and it was all, because I used to toilet paper, TP those trees, and all the caution tape was around, and it was what a disaster that was.
Yeah. An awesome disaster. That's what rivals do.
No, this was it was what did the trees do? I mean, you got to take it out in the trees, and he poisoned them with a really
that was bad.
chemical.
I shouldn't say that. But generally, though, as long as nobody gets, and also the stuff that happened with the Dodgers and the Giants there's no place for that. Real violence is bad, and I hope that the Eagles fans don't actually ruin any cars. I mean, they'll just key them. I mean, you can just get some body work done.
Body work done.
Well, I will say this: I lived in Boston for 6.5 years with my New York license plate. I got my tires slashed or my car keyed so many times.
Really?
I actually moved to Southie, and I lived in Southie, right where Good Will Hunting was filmed and all that, and I got slashed and keyed all the time.
They slashed your tires?
3 different occasions I got my tires slashed.
It wasn't just people who knew you?
Nope. Well, if it was, then I hate my friends even more than my enemies.
Why'd you say that you knew Sully?
Yeah, Tom Sully's name.
Sully would have protected you. Are you kidding me? You walk into Boston, you say you know Sully, you're set. But that'd be like, which Sully?
Yeah. Be like,
There's more than one?
The only one that matters. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. I can't believe Safter got his tires slashed multiple times.
Yeah, I can. That's a good one. The Yankees, Red Sox. We'll do baseball later in the week.
I had a friend of mine who was walking in Boston once just wearing a Yankees hoodie or something, and she got a snowball in the back of the head.
I got a full beer at a Yankees Red Sox game. Full beer on my jersey. Just threw it right in my head.
Or Yankee Stadium. At
Fenway.
Yeah, baseball, by the way, this genteel national pastime, fans can be really nasty at baseball games.
I know, because when the games used to be 4.5 hours, you can put down 17 beers.
There you go.
Combine beer and hot sun outdoors and hatred. Put all that together. It's a recipe for fun.
Yeah. 855-212-4CBS. 855-212-4227. Okay. We do have Cowboys update for you. We'll get to that. Also, the great debate series continues. Now, we did college football rivalries. Next, music rivalry. The greatest music rivalry of all time. We crown a champion? Sure. A winner.
Hand out a Grammy?
Sure. We do it next. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. Minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to Maggie and Perloff. I think a caller nailed it earlier, Maggie. We're doing great sports debate, the best rivalries in each sport. Today is college football. There obviously is a very, very strong regional tie to this. If you live, whatever part of the country you live in, hopefully you have your own awesome rivalry. So I think, you know, if you're in Oregon, then Oregon State is your best rivalry. Right. Like, it'd be weird to say my favorite rivalry is from some other state. So we understand the regional bias of it. We're trying to come to a consensus nationally what's the most intense rivalry.
Right, and you picked...
I go Michigan, Ohio State.
And I picked Army-Navy just because I understand Michigan, Ohio State doesn't need more than to just say it's the big game. You know, when something can just be distilled down to that, I get how big it is. I know it's incredible. But Army-Navy is something that's very different. It's so unique that I think it catapults it to the top of my list, at least. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Now, we will get to the greatest music rivalry of all time in moments. But here's Jason calling from Washington. Hey, Jason, how are you?
Hey, Maggie and Perloff. How y'all doing?
Best shape of our life.
Yeah, same here. I'll give you a best rivalry and I'll give you a most underrated. The best rivalry nationally right now is Michigan and Ohio State. I'm with Perloff on this. Both teams are really good, and their game at this point, they're basically playing for keeps every year. It's a de facto playoff game. So at this point, it's hard to argue with that being the best rivalry. And as somebody who's experienced this one firsthand, most underrated rivalry is Arizona State and Arizona. I'm a Sun Devil grad, and I can tell you the hatred, that especially the week of the game, is absolutely insane. And just some of the things that go on. We each have a mountain with a big A on it, and everybody sits there, or people take turns protecting it so people from the other school don't paint over it in the other school's colors. And just the absolute nastiness of it is crazy.
Wait, Jason, so Mike Samter, though, also went to Arizona State. Thank you for the phone call.
No. He worked in Arizona. He went to BU.
Oh, sorry. You went to BU, but you worked in Arizona, and you're a Sun Devil fan because of your time there. And you're downplaying it, and Jason says it's the most underrated rivalry in college football.
The problem is there's like this, it's almost like a buddy, like your friends. You want to be able to talk trash because Arizona State are never relevant in football. So like you want to care, but
Mike, that sounds why it sounds like a great rivalry, because the teams don't have to be good, and you still get up for this one game. You know,
that's like Army Navy.
And
like,
they have the common ingredient for our great rivalries is threat of vandalism at all times.
There is always that threat of vandalism, especially A Mountain, which is right outside of ASU.
There you go.
ASU Stadium, Sun Devil Stadium.
Do you want to know? There are a couple jobs I know I'd be terrible at. We already talked about third base. No way I'm playing that. I'd be too scared. Line drives coming to my head, but I would be the worst lookout ever.
What do you mean?
Jason just said people have to stand by the mountain and look out to try to stop the other school from coming over and graffitiing over your mountain. Right? That's what Jason just said.
Yeah, what's so hard about that?
I'd fall asleep. You can't trust me.
At night.
I would get distracted by something. I'd be on my phone. They'd be sneaking in behind me like a cartoon. You can't trust me. You don't want me on that wall.
I'm good.
I don't need you on that wall.
I know I'd be bad at that job.
Just give me enough coffee. I can stay up all night. I'll do the lookout. You do the day.
Thank goodness. This is why we go well together.
Yeah, no, but you need like dozens of people because the mountain is big and it goes all the way around. So you need people like all across the base to be. You can't have one person. Right, you have one person there. There's a million different spots that someone else can go up that mountain.
And when they test the perimeter, they would find that I am the weak spot.
And they always go up in the middle of the night. It's always like 3 a.m. It's never like middle of the day.
This sounds like a great rivalry to me.
Samter's downplaying it.
I mean, I understand the teams, especially now, are a little bit down, but they've had good teams. Tell Jake Plummer that's not a rivalry. I dare
that was,
you.
What, 2001, 98?
Tell Teddy Bruschi that is. Remember Arizona's pass rushers had a nickname? Does anybody remember that? They were on the cover of SI. Oh, my God. This is years ago. Arizona had one sick defense. I'll look it up. Take another call.
Let's go to Mark, who's in Ohio, while Perloff Googles great Arizona lineman. Mark, what's up?
Yeah, I was wondering if you guys knew that the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry actually came from a real war called the Toledo War, where there was actual bloodshed over Toledo. They were fighting over the border.
Oh, I've been to Toledo, and it is basically Michigan. It is the weirdest city because you're in Michigan, but it's technically Ohio. Does that make any sense, what I just said?
Like, you can't even say the other team's name in Ohio. Like, that's how deep it is. And there's, like, it, like, makes me sick in the stomach, like, anytime I see somebody wearing their jersey or anything that has their emblem. And, like, my dad, he's obsessed with it. It's
but, Mark, I get this. So this was a Toledo War that happened 1835 and 1836. Okay, I get the roots go all the way back, but that's why you should be with me on Army Navy. These are the people out there fighting other wars for us a little bit more,
But not against each other.
Hopefully not.
Well, hopefully not. Yeah.
By the way, the defense, the Teddy Bruschi defense in Arizona was called the Desert Swarm.
Good name.
Dick Tomey was this innovative defensive guy who they were really, really good.
Okay, let's get to another call. I want to make sure we leave time for the music, though. Patrick is in Syracuse. He's got one a little outside the box. What's up, Patrick? How are you?
Well, good afternoon. How are you?
We're doing amazing.
Good.
Okay, so I know I hear Army, Navy. Yes, they're the greatest people in the world, fight for our country, blah, blah, blah. They're wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And I hear Michigan, Ohio State, and apparently that's built over a war as well. Oh, okay, no problem at all. The biggest rivalry is the Cortica Jug. Portland State University against Ithaca College in upstate New York. But this thing has gotten so heated. What did he say? I don't know when he said that Michigan, Ohio State. This one's probably been since the 1520s. It's been going on. It's
the Middle Ages.
This one is so heated, so tense. You can't even alternate stadiums anymore. They've decided to host it at Yankee Stadium because it's gotten so huge and it's so heated. And now they get the Cornell Hotel School that's there. Those people who have gone on. You want to go to a tailgate? You go to a tailgate where you're going to have, if somebody's got some veal shank hanging around, you might find some ossobuco at your tailgate. You're going to have some risk. This is a heated rivalry. Division III that they've had to move to Yankee Stadium, God forbid. There is no more heated rivalry.
Man, well, you know where you want to put a really combustible situation is right in the middle of the Bronx. Patrick, thank you so much for the call.
There is something called the Cortica Jug.
I know people who've played in this.
I've been to Cortland has that gorgeous football facility. I've been there 5 or 6 times.
That's where the Jets used to do their training camp.
Yeah, it's amazing. Cortland is gorgeous. That campus, I don't know why. That football
College
program
is gorgeous too.
Yeah, that football program should be good. They have incredible football facilities. I did not know that this was an old rivalry.
It is a thing. I've never seen it, but I know people who have played in it. Obviously, I grew up about an hour away from Ithaca in upstate New York. The Cortica Jug is a huge thing.
So is it actually like just an old jug?
I think so. I should know more about this. I know a few people played in it, though.
I don't know if you need to know. I don't think you need to know more about it. I think you're okay.
I mean, I'm from there. I should probably know a little bit more. But that's all I got. Okay, do we have time to do music, Mike Samter, or no? You tell me. I'm going to make you the bad guy.
Big, long conversation on the back end.
Okay. Samter's the bad guy on that one. I wanted to do music. Just let the record show.
I hate music.
We're going to do greatest music rivalry. We're going to do
Samter versus music.
I win.
I don't know. Okay. Rich Ackerman is here with a CBS Sports update, and then we do the music rivalry. I mentioned again, we do have Cowboys stuff for you, too, so don't move. Maggie and Perloff, CBS Sports Radio.
Sports Flash.
Well, the baseball trade deadline is a little less than 2 hours away. The biggest move of the day came between the Mets and Astros, with Justin Verlander heading back to Houston after a few months stay in New York. Verlander will try to spark the Astros again, just as he did when he was acquired in 2017, helping them to their first title. He also won 2 Cy Young Awards while with the Astros. The Mets now looking toward the future. They received the Astros' #1 prospect in Drew Gilbert and Ryan Clifford, who is considered the 3rd best prospect in the Astros system. Michael Lorenzen reportedly leaving Detroit for Philadelphia, with the Brewers fortified their bullpen with the addition of Andrew Chafin from the Diamondbacks. The Braves have acquired reliever Brad Hand from the Rockies, while Rich Hill and Ji-Man Choi leave Pittsburgh for San Diego, with Bo Bichette going down. The Blue Jays acquire Paul DeJong from the Cardinals. The good news regarding Bichette is he is day-to-day right now. There was no structural damage in his knee after having to leave last night's game. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Looking for CBS Sports Radio online? Your favorite hosts and the best sports content and entertainment are available 24/7 on social media and YouTube, and in the palm of your hand with the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Wesley Financial. Stuck in a timeshare and want out? Contact Wesley Financial Group now and get a free timeshare exit information kit at wesleyfinancialgroup.com. All right, are you ready, Maggie? Are we ready for a little more debate?
Yeah, let's do it. So we've already done, well, we're still doing college football, greatest rivalry of all time, and you're welcome to weigh in. I said Army-Navy, Perloff.
Michigan, Ohio State.
We've heard some very good arguments from some callers. The underrated rivalry of Arizona State, apparently.
Yeah.
Oregon State, of course. Of course, the Iron Bowl.
Yeah. I should have gone with Harvard-Yale as an Ivy Leaguer and have everyone hate me.
Yeah.
But there was a movie. What was the movie about Tommy Lee Jones, 29-29? Did you see that one?
Mm-mm.
It was a really good documentary because that Ivy League used to dominate football the first half of the 20th century. I think they won everything. So, but that's a little dated.
Yeah, staying awake during that documentary is going to be...
Oh, really?
Seems like that might be tough.
It's about
for me.
Al Gore and Tommy Lee Jones. It's supposed to be amazing.
I'll catch it on Netflix.
Men in Black?
Okay, so now we turn to music.
The Great Debate Series. Best Rivalries.
Okay, I'll go first here. Best music rivalry. This is a little weird. We're doing these cultural rivalries. What's the best, to me, this is the most important, lasting music rivalry, and that would be the Beatles versus the Rolling Stones. So, obviously, the two supergroups from the 60s, everybody knows who they are. Even if you miss their music by 40 years, you've heard of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. So I asked my mom, who was around in the 60s, big music fan. I was like, is this really a rivalry?
Yeah.
Because you'd heard the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. She said, yes, you could not be a fan of both bands.
Is that right?
That's what she said.
Okay.
She said,
I agree.
I mean, right now we're talking about
her.
two of the most popular bands in the history of the world that actually, kind of like they do now in some hip-hop kind of bands, you couldn't like both. You had to pick sides, which surprised me because for our generations, like everybody likes both the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Now, I looked up Beatles versus Rolling Stones. I'm a big Rolling Stones fan. I think the Beatles are slightly overrated. I just said that.
Wow.
And the only reason I say that is they're rated higher than anybody. So how can they actually live up to that? This is how it was described by The Telegraph. The Beatles were pop. The Stones were rock. The former wholesome mop tops. The latter were dangerous rebels. John Lennon famously said the Beatles were more popular than Jesus, while the Stones had sympathy for the devil. So it was the good guys and the bad guys. I think the Rolling Stones were more punk rock and the Beatles were more pop. To me, the Rolling Stones, and any early documentary about the Rolling Stones, they were totally crazy drug addicts and weirdos and everything. And they were just everything that's good about rock and roll, which we don't even have anymore, was encapsulated in Rolling Stones. Where the Beatles, they changed everything. I'll admit that. Of course, they were an incredible band. But they were just kind of like, I don't know, I want to hold your hand. They were just a little wholesome for me.
So if you were living back in the 60s,
Rolling Stones.
You would have been a Rolling Stones.
1,000%. I also have a theory that people hate. By the way, the Dan Patrick Show, this was the number one thing people would call in and say, I hate McLovin about. That the Beatles, it was really this, that the Beatles were overrated. And I also said that basically, Let It Be is one of the great songs of all time. But then they Let It Be, Yesterday, and all the good Beatles songs are basically the same song redone a little bit. So this is basically Yesterday.
It's not, though. Yesterday is a different song.
It kind of is. So the Beatles, and Dylan's probably better than both of them, but the Rolling Stones copied everything the Beatles did, I'll give you that, but they did it with so much more flair and panache. So this wasn't supposed to be about the Beatles versus Rolling Stones. My point is, it's a great music rivalry in the sense that you could pit them against each other, and they're so iconic. That to me, that's the number one music rivalry of all time.
Okay. It certainly is a big one, but I've got a bigger one for you.
Okay.
Because the stakes ended up being as high as they can possibly be for this music rivalry, and that is Tupac versus Biggie. This is the ultimate rivalry because, unfortunately, it came to such a horrible end. Now, okay, you got the height of East Coast, West Coast rap. So let me just give you a little bit of a background here. Biggie and Tupac were friends first. Tupac was the more famous rapper first. He got famous first. 1994, Tupac comes to New York City to record an album or a song with Biggie and Puff Daddy at the time, Diddy. Tupac gets shot in the lobby of the recording studio 5 times and lived to tell about it, right? And he survived it. Just a few months after that, Biggie released a song called Who Shot Ya? Stu, if we can play that. That made Tupac think that Biggie and Diddy had set him up and they were trying to kill him. So then Tupac released Hit 'Em Up, and this was the great diss track that he took out Biggie, totally dissed him. A few months after that, Tupac died in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas. And then that was 96. Then 1997 in L.A., while Biggie was attending the Soul Train Music Awards, he was shot and killed. I mean, because of the fatal endings here, I feel like it puts it in a totally different stratosphere. But you're talking about it started, Biggie and Tupac were probably the most famous of the East Coast, West Coast rap battles, but then it continued on because it was, Bad Boy versus Death Row, which was obviously Snoop and, it's and Dr. Dre. It's like this whole Suge Knight, this whole entire era of rivalry that Biggie and Tupac sort of spawned.
Well, I can't compete with the outcome of the...
Well, it's a sad outcome. We all know this, right? So...
Well, they'll never be able to compete with it because Keith Richards is never going to die, so therefore you can never compete with that.
Yeah.
What's the documentary? There's a recent documentary that was very good on Biggie versus Tupac. But my favorite part, and you'll appreciate this because I know you love them, Biggie versus Tupac, it really blew East Coast, West Coast. There was a Video Music Awards, or
the Source Awards.
The Source Awards,
and in New York.
Yeah, and during the documentary they go, and then off in the corner stood Wu-Tang alone, and they cut to RZA is wearing a ninja outfit in the crowd, full ninja outfit, while everyone's wearing a suit.
Yeah, that squares.
Yeah. But it was, and that the Source Awards really was the apex of that right before the assassinations. Or sorry, I'm pulling Chris Rock here.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. That's unique too, because that really set the stage. You're right, for years.
And then other, there's been obviously other hip hop beefs off of this, like Jay-Z and Nas have a really big beef. There's been other ones, but for this, I think this is as big as it gets. And I think this is as, not just because of the fatal outcome and the tragic outcome here. They really, I think, for a short period of time, brought out the best in each other, and I think that's a big part of a rivalry.
Yeah, I think you can say the same with the Stones and the Beatles, by the way. Can we just say this? The one that I wanted to do with Taylor Swift versus Kanye.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And it's just so silly, too, because they're different kinds of music, and they should have been... they should have gotten along fine.
Well, he interrupted her at the MTV Movie Awards.
Beyonce did not win that award. Was it MTV Awards or Grammys?
I think it was. Oh, was it the Grammys? Yeah.
Regardless, he interrupted. She won an award, and he said that should have gone to Beyonce. And then it's I think she's recently written songs about him. Wow.
And him about her. He did the celebrity song where she's like all these famous people. The wax figures are in a bed.
Also, people might misinterpret this. Within bands and within groups, there's all sorts of really intense dislikes and rivalries and hatreds through the years. But we did sort of bands against bands.
Yes. We didn't do like a John versus Paul or something like that.
Yeah. The Gallagher brothers.
Sure. Yeah. Right. We have some good ones here in the chat. YouTube.com/CBS Sports Radio is where you can watch the show, which was a couple here. I want to make sure I give credit to where it's due. I believe this was Delta 9 Brian said... Michael Jackson versus Prince. Now, I don't know what their relationship was like. I think that was more of a rivalry of who was going to hit number one or like who had the more interesting music, right?
Similar to what Perloff was saying, like you couldn't be a fan of either of both the Beatles and the Stones. I feel like you're on one side or the other with Prince or MJ.
Really?
No, I don't. I'm a little older than you guys. I don't think that was the case. MJ was unparalleled.
Yes, but the Prince fans, like they're all about Prince, and they will to their death say that he was greater and more influential than MJ.
But Michael Jackson floated along without rivals. There was nobody in the '80s. There's just nobody who was like Michael Jackson. Maybe the Beatles in the '60s.
Michael Jackson was there. I feel like Madonna was she almost as famous. Someone put Madonna versus Cyndi Lauper in the chat.
Yeah, Madonna was huge.
Again, Delta 9 Brian. Nick in Texas says the Jackson Five versus the Partridge Family, to which Laura responded, they weren't even a real family, the Partridge Family. Should they be docked points because it was a TV show?
There's some other ones. How about Pearl Jam and Nirvana? You guys remember that?
Yeah, but
that's another big one. Yes.
They didn't get along at all till the very, very end, right? There's a famous thing right before Kurt Cobain died that him and Eddie Vedder hugged backstage one time, like a week before he
buried the hatchet.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true, but that's a good one.
Let's go to Tony, who's in Pennsylvania. Hi, Tony. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm really enjoying the show and the music comparisons. Thanks for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 60 years old. I grew up, my older brother, obviously 5 years older than me, grew up with the Beatles and the Stones. And I look at it, I think you can enjoy both of them and like both of them. I don't think you have to choose one. I mean, it's almost like LeBron versus Michael. They're both different. I mean, the Beatles had some rock going on, the Helter Skelter and stuff like that. But they just did so much, I think, in the 8 years. They had so many smash hits. And, again, I don't think that you can get caught up in saying – it's almost like people bring the Led Zeppelin band into the mix.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin fans will say, oh, man, Led Zeppelin was better than the Rolling Stones. But I do agree with what you said, Perloff, about Michael Jackson versus Prince. I mean, Michael Jackson was just unbelievable. And I'm a Ghetto Boys fan. I grew up, with the disco era. But I out of Houston, Texas, a little Bushwick Bill guy rapping. They didn't get much radio play because they were so hard lyrics. Remember Mine Playing Tricks on You? Remember that song? That was the radio song from the Ghetto Boys.
Okay.
But I'll hang up and listen. Thanks for. Hey, the first rapper was Dr. Zeus. Let's give a shout out to that. But love your show.
Thank you so much. Seeing this one from Trevor St. McGoodbody in the chat. So cool. NSYNC versus Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
Height of the boy band rivalries.
Did they I don't remember this. I mean, I assume you had posters on your wall. Did they get after each other a little bit in the press?
I mean, I think it was just like who was going to have as many girls screaming for him as possible. Patrick's in Myrtle Beach. Hi, Patrick.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well. What do you have for us?
All right, so along the hip-hop lines, so as far as like taking over a industry or a music scene by storm, no one did it like in that hip-hop region like 50 Cent did. So
yeah,
the 50 Cent's unit against Ja Rule and Murder Inc. And then with Eminem, and then his whole thing with Ja Rule.
With Ja Rule, yep.
I mean, I'm 34, so that was like prime time. The diss tracks are amazing, and then not to mention oh my God, what was I going to say?
Well, you're right on the Ja Rule and the 50 Cent. So we're up against the top of the hour. And that actually came to blows, if I'm not mistaken. They actually got into a bit of tiff there.
I'm seeing a little David Lee Roth, Sammy Hagar action. That could take over hour 3.
Oh, boy.
A little Van Halen talk.
Oh, my gosh. Well, we do have Cowboy stuff. We've got a Joe Burrow update for you. We've got Aaron Rodgers at the podium today. We've got so much to do. Great debate series continues. Don't move. Maggie Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Jokic with the only ever 30, 20, 10 triple-double in the history of the NBA Finals, and Perloff is not impressed.
It's so boring.
Wow, and you're a massive NBA fan, so I feel like for you to say that.
I'm not a massive 8-footer fan. I like high-flying dunks, very deep three-pointers. So I like LeBron James. I like Steph Curry. I like Michael Jordan.
How varied in people you had there.
I do not like...
greatest ever, and that's it. Everyone else can go screw.
What is he doing that's exciting? You're saying that I'm denigrating his greatness. I'm not. He's unbelievable.
You just don't want to watch it.
He's simply unstoppable, but I think it's boring.
They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Welcome into the show. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff across the country on CBS Sports Radio. If you ever missed the show, the Maggie and Perloff podcast, right there for you. Rate and review and subscribe and all of that. You can watch the show, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. Okay. Great debate series is going on today. The greatest college football rivalry of all time and also the greatest music rivalry of all time. We're doing one sports, one non-sports for Rivalry Week here on the show. But before we get back to the phone calls and get back into Rivalry Week, Perloff, the latest rivalries have actually been in the NFL variety, which is Sean Payton versus the world now. And specifically Sean Payton versus the Jets because of the comments he made to USA Today about Nathaniel Hackett and about, just you wait, the fate that was suffered by the Broncos last year with all the hype. That's what's going to befall the New York Jets this year. And it's kind of turned the spotlight really onto Sean Payton and sort of what's at stake for him, not just this season, but moving forward. I think you and I disagree on this. I think Sean Payton's fate is more tied to Russell Wilson than either he might think or anyone might think, because he was hired to fix this with Russell Wilson. There's a reason why the Denver Broncos went out and spent $241 million in free agency this year. They're going out to fix what's going on right now. They're not in this to have another disappointing season to get a high draft pick so that Sean Payton can handpick a quarterback and start from zero. That's not what the mission was for Sean Payton.
Well, Sean Payton, he's like probably a free agent guy anyway. I mean, I don't think they ever drafted a quarterback of any note. I mean, he signed Drew Brees.
Never developed a young quarterback.
Yeah. He would bring in, regardless, my point is he's probably going to get a shot with his own quarterback at some point. I think he did come in.
Who's that? Drew Brees is retired.
Yeah, in 2 years, who knows? I mean, he turned Jameis Winston into a really good quarterback. He could do it with almost anybody. He could probably do it with Russell Wilson. But if he doesn't, why do you think he has a 2-year window here? He's a relatively young man. What is he, 56? I'm sorry, he's 59. But he signed one of the most expensive deals. They were psyched to get him. They gave him a first-round pick for him. I mean,
first, a second, and a third. The second in 2024 and a third in 2024.
I think one was a swap, but yeah. Okay. But, I mean, they were
29th overall pick this year.
He was by far and away the best coach that's been available in a long time. I mean, Sean Payton's an incredible offensive coach. So I think they're psyched there. And I understand from his point of view why he chose Denver. I don't think it was because of Russell Wilson. I think it was because it's a great city. It's got an unbelievable football facility, and it's got the richest owners in the history of the NFL. So it's like an amazing spot to be, where I think he's looking at New Orleans-like run, where he's there for many, many years. I assume he was in, I don't have the number in front of me, he was probably in New Orleans for at least 16 years or something. So I think he's setting up for a long run that's going to long outlast Russell Wilson.
I'm not so sure. Now, yes, they gave up a lot to get him, but let's not forget that this didn't start like a love at first sight relationship here. You know, this was weeks and weeks in the making, where the Broncos went to Jim Harbaugh. The Broncos went to DeMeco Ryans and tried to get him. Sean Payton then flew to Arizona and interviewed for the Cardinals job. Then they all kind of met back and was like, well, you know, all right, let's get this done. And I don't know this ownership group. It's Walmart, but like we don't know like what their personalities are like or anything. But they're the ones who not only traded for Russell Wilson, but then gave him a $245 million contract, $165 million guaranteed. They've made a massive bet on Russell Wilson, and I don't know if they're going to want Sean Payton to just say like, hey, this can't be fixed. It's like, no, that's why we hired you. That's why we're paying you $18 million, because we want you to fix this.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there was a complication with Sean Payton. They knew they were going to have to give him a first-round pick for him. Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons they didn't.
And more, it turned out.
Yeah, and I don't think Sean Payton really wanted to be with Russell Wilson. So I think the two of them were a little hesitant on each other. So I think that's – and also he's going to be super expensive. They paid him, I think, probably the most ever. I just looked up his salary, $18 million a year.
Yeah.
He's crazy expensive. So I think the reasons that they were hesitant about him were not because he's not a great coach. But I think – he'll definitely get many bites at the apple here.
You just set up yourself. Like, is how much do they love? Like, how much does each side love each other? Right.
Well, they basically, I mean, I think once Sean Payton got there, there's so much to love about Denver right now. It's really the perfect place to build a dynasty. I mean, they've had a lot of success in the past. It's the hottest city in the country. It's just, you can golf almost year round because it gets warm occasionally.
Yeah, that's what I want. My coach is he can't wait to get out to the golf course.
Unlimited funds.
With Steve Spurrier in Washington, D.C.
Unlimited funds. I think that this is a great place to be. And I think Sean Payton, first of all, I think he will fix Russell Wilson to a large extent. And I think Russell Wilson got better towards the end of last year. I think he was hurt last year. So he'll fix him to a good extent. But maybe they do 1 or 2 more years of Russell Wilson. If they don't win, they're certainly going to keep Sean Payton past that. They invested so much. They gave him a first-round pick. So they're going to really wait out Payton, not wait out Wilson.
Okay, I think that there's an idea here that Russell Wilson is like hurting his future Hall of Fame candidacy if he doesn't perform well in Denver.
Yep.
I don't know if he's the only one. If this crashes and burns for Sean Payton too, there could be damage done to that legacy as well. I don't think, like, to think that Sean Payton is like hovering up here and Russell Wilson, is the one who everyone's going to blame if this goes wrong. I think that's just a little bit short-sighted. And as for, like, Payton say in 2 years, say Russ will be, 36 or whatever at that point, and say they move on to another quarterback. I went and talked to our pal Tiki Barber across the hall because Sean Payton was his offensive coordinator for the Giants. And he said, here are the 2 things. I said, describe what Sean Payton is like as a coach. He said, not patient and not a nurturer.
Yeah,
he's a guy who brings in a system, and he's a play caller. So if they're going to start over, let's say for argument's sake, it is with a draft pick. Say you do want to get cheaper, after you pay Russell Wilson all this money. Say you want to go with the draft pick. Not patient, not a nurturer. That's not someone, to me, that screams, I'm developing your next future pro.
Yeah, but I don't think he'll do that. I think he'll go the free agency route because...
But that's expensive.
Well, he pulled Breeze off the trash heap, because Breeze had that bad shoulder. Then he pulled Jameis off the trash heap and looked like that was working really well. I think he's the offensive mind who can take a mid-level guy, kind of like Jared Goff in Detroit this year. I think he can pull that kind of thing. He just needs someone who's going to run his system exactly how he wants it. So I don't think that he needs a Caleb Williams or something. I mean, sure, it'd be great if you could get a guy like that. But the other thing, too, unfortunately, I don't think they're going to lose enough. They're not going to be 3-14. They can't do that. So they're not going to get in the Caleb Williams, Drake May thing. I think he tries with Russ. If it doesn't work, but I honestly think he'll be there 12 years. I think he is not a wanderer at all.
No, he's not, but let's see how this goes, right? Yeah. Because I'm not penciling in, Sean Payton is the next decade-long coach for Denver. It didn't start in a place where it seemed like everyone was on the same page.
Well, the ownership group is really new. I don't think
they are.
I think they don't know anything other than Sean. They're not going to really know anything. So Sean Payton is going to be like he invented the wheel to them.
Well, the other part, too, and I don't know how much this matters in the building, but before this year, their general manager, George Payton, was known as this really respected guy, right? He had this great reputation. Now his reputation is kind of in the toilet.
He's a Russ,
because of the whole season, right? It just went terribly. And how much they gave up to get Russ and all of that. But you and I even both know, obviously, their sights were set on Rodgers, and they didn't get Rodgers.
They gave Russell the Rodgers deal by accident. It's the funniest setup of all time.
It's a real...
They got Rodgers coach, they have Rodgers offense, and then they put not Rodgers.
It's a real sliding door situation on what would have happened if Aaron Rodgers had just gone to Denver, but we'll never know. So Sean Payton, in his comments to USA Today, didn't just take out Nathaniel Hackett and didn't just throw shade at the Jets and basically forecast their demise. He also basically took out people in the building.
Sure.
And you want to know who's going to hate that? The people in the building.
Yeah, but Payton's long gone before Payton. Sean Payton.
George Payton.
Yeah, will outlast George Payton by a decade if he wants to.
He will, but you never know. Like, the one thing I don't know if I'd love is I come in, and before I've coached a regular season game at all, I've ticked off half the building because I just gave a quote to USA Today that said this was the worst coaching job of all time. There's 20 dirty hands on this. Yeah. And all the things that everyone knows and says behind the scenes, like, hey, we got to self-evaluate. But I aired all of our dirty laundry.
Yeah, I mean, Sean Payton learned from Bill Parcells, and he's totally pulling a Parcells here. He's coming in with tough love. And it always worked for Bill Parcells.
I know, but Bill Parcells also had many stops. If you're saying that Sean Payton's not a wandering guy, Parcells went all over the NFL.
Yeah, but I do think he's adapting this Bill Parcells style of, listen, I'm not gonna pussyfoot around it.
Then you're not going to be there for 10 years.
Yeah, maybe not. But I think that Denver is just such an awesome place. I feel like I think it's going to work with Russ. I think they're going to be better. The one thing you said, Sean Payton is going to I don't think he'll get blamed if they're bad because the bar was set so low by the Nathaniel Hackett group that all Sean Payton has to do is win 8 games. Everyone's like, ooh, nice job by Sean Payton. And that's not that hard.
Let's see. 855-212-4CBS. Yes, Samter.
Well, now that he blamed the coaching staff, it's all on him. It's all on him.
Well, but not according to Aaron Rodgers. He thinks he's softened the blow in case things go poorly this year. Then Sean Payton has a convenient
But you can't blame Hackett for what happened. If you're going to blame the guy from last year, and then you come in and you don't rectify it, that's on you. This is it's almost like he's putting too much on his shoulders. And now, even if they win 7 games, 8 games, I don't know.
I feel like Russell Wilson's such a face of the team, though, that he will get a lot of the blame, too. I know all these quotes seem like a big deal in July, but if we're actually watching a Monday Night Football game in November and Russell's terrible, I think everyone's going to blame Russell, too.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. So you're welcome to weigh in on Sean Payton and the situation in Denver. Okay, our great debate series continues. We've been doing greatest college football rivalry of all time. I went Army-Navy. Perloff?
Michigan, Ohio State.
And our music rivalry, we're going to do one sports, one non-sports rivalry every day. For music, I chose the greatest rivalry of all time, Tupac and Biggie.
I went with these two small bands out of England called the Beatles and the Rolling Stones.
Let's hear from you. Brian is up next here on CBS Sports Radio. He's calling from Illinois. Hi, Brian. How are you?
Fantastic. I'm listening to you guys, so I couldn't be any better.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, bud.
What do you got for us?
Well, I was going to go with Led Zeppelin and The Who because if it wasn't for The Who, Led Zeppelin might not have had their name. They could have went with a different name.
I don't know that story.
Yeah.
So I think it was Roger Daughtry heard of Jimmy Page and John Bonham meeting up with, or not Jimmy Page, Robert Plant and John Bonham meeting up with Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones. And he stated that project will go down like a lead balloon.
Ooh.
Oh, is that right? That's a great.
That is correct.
It's a real Sean Payton kind of quote.
You know what would have been a better one? How about Pete Townsend versus Roger Daltrey, or everybody in the Who against Roger Daltrey?
Yeah, I know.
They got a fist fight on stage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Everything else seems quaint after that. Brian, thank you for the phone call and for the compliment.
Yeah, I mean the real hatred is in the band. People, I read some stuff about the Eagles, how much they hated Glenn Frey and vice versa. Like, I guess you really get to hate somebody when you're in a band with them.
Yeah. The opposite of this, I just watched the Wham documentary.
Oh, yeah. How is that?
It's pretty good. I mean, it's fine. It's
glowing endorsement.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's just so interesting that was the opposite, where George Michael, and now I'm just forgetting the guy's name. I just watched 2 hours of him. Anyway, Andrew something. I forgot his last name.
Oh, the other guy in Wham.
The other guy in Wham. They were
Wham.
friends from, like middle school. And George Michael started writing songs. He was like 16. He was like a savant. And the other guy from Wham, Andrew, knew that George Michael was so much more talented than him.
Andrew Ridgeley, thank you. He knew that George Michael was only a matter of time till George Michael was going to move on. And he never begrudged him it, at least publicly.
By the way, I think we had it wrong. You mentioned the Partridge Family before, right?
Yeah, that's what Nick said, the Jackson 5 versus the Partridge Family.
It's the Partridge Family versus the Brady Bunch. Because remember, the Brady Bunch had a band, and they were awesome.
The Brady Bunch had a band?
Oh, my.
Yes.
Are you kidding?
Famous song, too.
Oh, yes, maybe
Come
they
on,
did.
be happy, all that. And
no, that's the Partridge Family.
Oh, what's the Brady Bunch? Brady Bunch songs are amazing.
The Partridge Family is dun,
when Peter's voice changes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
I Think I Love You.
It's a Sunshine Day.
That's
the Brady Bunch song.
Okay. And they also had It's Time to Change. When Peter hits puberty. Anyone?
But that was just like wasn't that just an episode of the show?
No, it's a whole song.
Oh, okay.
And then they toured for years. Yeah.
We got a couple here. Mike in California, who's our pal, had said Neil Young versus Leonard Skinner.
That's a great one.
Beach Boys versus Judas Priest. I think that's got to be a joke.
Obviously, there's that whole Beatles Pet Sounds thing. I know the Beach Boys and the Beatles had something going.
Oh, did they also have something going?
Yeah,
I mean,
because
who didn't have a feud? It's kind of...
wait, what's a heavy metal band? I read there was a lot of people write about there was a Megadeth and one other.
Oh, they had a rival?
Yeah, there was the two big late 70s, early 80s.
Iron Maiden?
Yeah, Iron Maiden or somebody.
If you're going intro band, you're going Slash and Axl.
Yeah.
That was a big one.
Yeah, that was a big rivalry. Did Guns N' Roses have a rival?
Oh, yeah, they hated Nirvana hated Guns N' Roses. I know that. They did. Everybody in the indie rock movement hated Guns N' Roses.
Really?
Pavement hated Guns N' Roses.
Why?
Because they thought that they were a big hair band that was posing as like something else.
That's such a bad take.
Well, they were a big hair band.
No, I know, but GNR is like some of the most has incredibly iconic music. It wasn't just they weren't vapid, empty songs.
Yeah.
These are.
But I would say that whole big hair band era was not great.
Well, GNR is great.
Yeah, I mean, but Rat and Poison and all that stuff.
Well, it depends on your point of view. A couple people writing in Britney versus Christina.
Oh, yeah.
That was a big one. Beach Boys and Beatles, you said that already. Deadman says Megadeth versus Metallica.
Okay, that's one. I read that somewhere.
Okay.
Oh, here's a good one. Mozart versus Beethoven. How can we forget about that?
They hated each other. Challenge you to a duel.
Everyone does say that your Biggie Tupac should be in a different category for obvious reasons. Like having all these like fun, like someone points out, Mick and Paul swapped wives at one point. I don't think, I think that's a little dark, Maggie. That's all we're saying here.
John Denver and James Taylor, according to Delta 9.
Oh my gosh, that is definitely the easy listening rivalry.
By the way, the Bach Mozart, Mozart was 6 when Bach died.
He said Beethoven.
Oh, Beethoven. Okay, I thought you said Mozart.
Well, yeah, I probably the ages don't match up. Someone points out inside of Fleetwood Mac. Now, the rivalries are wife swapping because if we're doing the best wife swapping, man.
Okay. See you guys on the phones. We'll get to you in just a moment. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Also coming up, a major change to how you may watch the Super Bowl. Get to that in just a moment. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff and you during this rivalry week on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Minutes remaining. Minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
We'll get back to the great sports debate, Rivalry Week. We're debating the best college football rivalry today and also the best music rivalry. Every day this week we'll do a cultural rivalry. Lots of nominations coming in. But I feel like with all this attention to the Jets and the Broncos, the poor Dallas Cowboys are feeling neglected. I think it's time for a Cowboys Quickie. Yeah, what do we got? What's the latest out of Cowboys camp? Because I can't even keep track of all these things that the owner is saying there.
Well, a lot going on. Well, let's start with CeeDee Lamb because we've been wondering how the offense is going to look different this year. No Kellen Moore, he's out. Mike McCarthy's going to be calling the plays. But here was CeeDee Lamb talking about the offense and how it's in Dak's hands this year.
It's a lot more simpler. You know, all the offense is in Dak's hands now. It's not necessarily, being called from Mike or Kel since last year, but now it's all on Dak. Like, however he's feeling versus the coverage, if he like the matchup, we're going to call that play. If he likes whatever he likes versus zone, he's going to call that play. So technically, it's all in Dak's hands.
No pressure, pal.
I don't actually understand that, and I don't really even believe that because Dak's still getting stuff. He's definitely getting two options in on his headset. Like, you're telling me that Dak is just not even getting any information about what to run from his headset?
Well, no, I'm sure he's getting some, but I think they're empowering Dak. That's how I took it, is that McCarthy's empowering Dak, that if he wants to make changes off of what he sees, changes at the line of scrimmage off of what he sees from the defense, he's empowered to do that.
But the way CeeDee is making it sound like he's not going to get plays called in his helmet, I'm dubious of this. I'm sure they'd be like, okay, if you see this look, go with XY banana. If you see this look, go with XZ banana or something.
Right.
Because my understanding, even Peyton Manning would audible at the line, but he was given a finite number of choices. It wasn't like, hey, just walk up to the line and call a play.
Well, because there's 10 other guys, you got to tell them what to do.
Well, right. I don't think, but the point is, I think I'd be surprised if the coaches aren't still, McCarthy's calling the play, not Dak. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the whole thing. McCarthy's calling the plays this year, not Dak.
Yeah, but CeeDee Lamb is telling you that Dak's going to have a big, heavy hand in it. There's your Cowboys Quickie.
I heard a great point, by the way, and it was one that I made earlier from ESPN's Dan Graziano, and I actually put a number to this. Everyone's saying that the Cowboys are going to run this year.
Yeah, we've been saying that for a while.
Mike McCarthy would rather get root canal surgery than run the ball. I thought, I look back, he never, ever, ever, ever ran in Green Bay.
No, the West Coast offense isn't, it's not really like that.
Yeah, so this idea that they're going to run to keep down Dak's interceptions can't be true.
They've been talking about the run game, though, for years.
We got fooled into it last year, and it didn't happen.
We did, but, that's what happens when you have a good offensive line, although still no Zach Martin at camp. He's getting fined, too, by the way. So he's a veteran. Yeah. They can't forgive those fines. He's losing like $50,000 a day by not showing up at camp. I know he's been paid a lot, but that's still a lot.
Yeah. Mike McCarthy, guys can talk about the run, but McCarthy, I'll bet you, he'll throw the ball 50 times a game.
You saw something also, Troy Aikman talking to Ed Werder.
Oh, yeah. Troy Aikman said that this is the best team Dak's had around him. He didn't guarantee a Super Bowl because of that, but he said, now, I'm not sure I believe that because in 2016, didn't Dak inherit a great team? That was the year, I believe, of the catch, non-catch with Dez Bryant. But they had their offensive line was really popping then, where the offensive line is older now. So that's the only reason I would say maybe the 16 team was better. But this team has a secret weapon, Micah Parsons. So I could see that both teams are really talented. I do worry, and I know I've said this a million times, do we overrate Dallas talent just because they're such a high-profile team? I think sometimes we're guilty of that.
Well, they added a former defensive player of the year. I mean, that's real. Stephon Gilmore. I don't.
Yeah, but I mean, listen.
No,
they added an older Stephon Gilmore. That's not a position where you bring in an old guy to really
but they also,
help.
They put their money where their mouth is with Trayvon Diggs, so they obviously feel like it's not overrated. They paid him $96 million or whatever, $100 million, just a couple days last week. So that's not the media. That's the team. Ponying up for a player they find valuable.
Well, maybe they self-evaluated overhyped guys too. I don't know. It seems like they've had a lot of Pro Bowlers with not a lot of postseason success.
Well, that's
to me,
the whole
that says
thing about
that these
the Cowboys.
Right. To me, it says these Pro Bowlers are maybe sometimes overrated. And I don't think that's a super hot take. It's very possible that Dallas is, the glitz and glamour of Dallas. We might be wooed by that a little. Not you, Maggie.
Thank you. I'm immune. I'm not. I mean, I think that one question I do have for Dallas, if they are planning on running the ball, and again, it's a good point about McCarthy and the West Coast offense and stuff, but if they are planning to run the ball, are we sure Tony Pollard can handle that being the bell cow there?
Great question.
And the fact that Ronald Jones also just got suspended, now 2 games, we're not even sure if he's really going to make the roster, but 2 games for PEDs, right? So it's like, are we who's getting all these carries? It's obviously going to be Pollard, who is great, but
yeah, I mean, listen, you can find a running back, right? By the way, in 2016 they had Travis Frederick was young, center. Zach Martin was super young, and Tyron Smith was still young on that offensive line. And those guys are all great. Frederick has since retired, I believe, but. Yeah, I think that was the key to that. When Dak first got there, if you have a great offensive line, that's more important than a running back, a wide receiver. It just gives quarterbacks such a sense of relief. So Dallas.
And he had Zeke Elliott there.
And he had a rookie Zeke Elliott who ran for 1,600 yards.
And could have been Offensive Rookie of the Year.
It didn't matter because anybody could have run behind that line.
Maybe.
That line was just mauling people.
Yeah, I still think that having a running back like Zeke definitely helped Dak out early on.
I'm starting to think more and more it's not the running back. I mean, listen, last year, I looked up some numbers yesterday. Jonathan Taylor is holding out in Indy. Zach Moss came in at the end of the year behind that offensive line that finally got healthy towards the second half of the year. And Zach Moss ran like crazy behind them. So if you're in the right situation, I don't mean to be anti-running back, but it's true. If you have the good offensive line and a good coaching staff and you commit to the run, you can put a lot of guys back there.
Well, I guess the question is that, for Dallas's offensive line, which was really great and has been consistently great, then why didn't Romo have more success?
Well, he had tons of it. They had top offense year in and year out.
Why did they ever go to the NFC Championship game then? Why didn't they go to the Super Bowl?
It's a good question.
It can't all be about Jessica Simpson.
But they certainly, that offensive line and Tony Romo did amazing things together. And then they drafted Tyron Smith and Zach Martin, and it just took it to the next level.
I think they still need Zach Martin. I don't think that's just like, just plug and play another guard.
No, he'll show up.
I understand why he feels like he wants a little bit more incentive. Listen, he has nothing guaranteed past this year. And even at his age, he's still really good.
I understand, but he signed the biggest contract a guard has ever signed.
And he's restructured it a million times so that they can sign other people.
I'll bet you he shows up.
I don't know what other option he has if he really wants to sit out. 855-212-4CBS. So I've been talking about Cowboy stuff. We've been talking about the great rivalries of all time, college football rivalries, where I have Army, Navy, and Perloff has Ohio State, Michigan, and music rivalries, where I have Tupac and Biggie, and Perloff has
Beatles, Stones.
Let's go to James, as in Pensacola, Florida, has a music rivalry. Hello, James.
Hey, guys, I do have a music rivalry, but first, yes, it was all about Jessica Simpson. You may have a guy to realize that, but yes, that is absolutely true. And Pollard still has a ton of tread on that tire, man.
Yeah.
Still has a ton. All right, your producer said this may have been touched on earlier, and I wasn't listening, I confess. But can we put the nail in the coffin once and for all with regard to David Lee Roth and the Cabo Wabo man? Sammy Hagar. That's not even a rivalry, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, Van Hagar was way better. No,
I'm crawling through my phone and putting my hands around your neck.
You're
joking, right?
You're a David Lee Roth guy.
Good. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm a David Lee Roth guy, too. I mean...
Isn't everybody, if they're going to be intellectually honest, right?
Well, here's the thing, though, James. I mean, Van Halen did have a lot of great hits with Sammy Hagar, though.
Well, great, but it's all relative, right?
Now?
Fine. Fine. Well, no. Look at their first two albums.
No,
I could have stopped right then. Nothing that Hagar did compares to anything that David Lee Roth did with regard to those first two albums.
That's true. James, thank you so much for the phone call. I mean, first two Van Halen albums, you could probably put like first two any album of any band of all time, you know?
Yeah.
How huge they were out of the gate, yes.
And Sammy Hagar's solo work was featured by I Can't Drive 55, which is not the hardest rocking song of all time. It's not quite early Van Halen.
I will say this, whether we're debating Hagar versus David Lee Roth or just the viciousness of that rivalry, the fact that the caller just offered to jump through the phone and strangle Perloff for even insinuating that Hagar was close to David Lee, it just shows that this is an intense rivalry.
I know. I kind of glossed that. I was like, what did he say? You just reach through the phone.
I feel like every one of us has had that feeling once or twice.
No, Glenn is in Myrtle Beach, has a college football rivalry for us. Hi, Glenn.
Hey, guys, what's going on? I got to go with LSU, Alabama. Been to games in both stadiums, and there's nothing like it. Nothing like it.
You know, it's a great point, Glenn. It's funny because it doesn't have, obviously, the, you know, I can't even say thank you for the call. I can't say tradition of the Iron Bowl. The Iron Bowl has this great tradition, but LSU, Alabama has a lot of tradition. It's just not that in-state rival, obviously.
Well, I think the last 20 years, they've been in a lot of showdowns for national supremacy.
Yeah, they played in a college national championship.
Yeah, and did they have that? Wasn't that called the game of the century? Right, that ended up being like 9-6, the most boring game I ever watched in my life. But yeah, I think that Alabama LSU has a special place, and now I think Alabama Georgia is evolving into something really special.
See, I think Brian Kelly deserves credit that he came in and LSU beat Alabama in that first game that he coached against them, and kind of announced like, "Hey, there's going to be no setbacks here, no easing into this thing."
Well, you saying you giving Brian Kelly credit for beating Alabama? Like that was a smart move to beat Alabama?
No, I'm just saying it ratcheted up the stakes immediately.
Yeah, you can't give him credit. Yeah, you give him credit for the big win, but you can't be like, you know what, Brian Kelly did right. He went in and he beat Alabama. Yeah, no doubt.
I think it was a statement, and the way he did it. Remember going for 2 at the end of the game?
Right.
That was a ballsy move.
I hear you.
855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Okay, a lot more to do, including, I didn't see this one coming. Someone with very harsh criticism.
Really?
Yes. I mean, and to be honest, I agree with every word of it.
Is it somebody criticizing the Mets?
You mean another person? No. Yes, and if you missed it, the Mets traded Justin Verlander. Rich Ackerman's got the latest for you on the MLB trade deadline, which ends at the top of the hour. We got that. And again, some harsh criticism, stinging criticism from the last person I'd expect it from. We got that after this CBS Sports Update. Here's Rich.
Sports Flash.
Well, the Mets had high hopes when they reunited former teammates who had 6 Cy Young awards between them in total. They got a total of 35 starts out of Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. The latter was dealt back to Houston today for 2 prospects ranked numbers 1 and 3 in the organization, respectively, by Baseball America. While Scherzer had some tough outings, Verlander had been brilliant over his last 8 starts and is now headed back to a familiar spot where he won a World Series and 2 of his 3 Cy Young awards. The Phillies and Tigers reportedly agreed to a deal to send Michael Lorenzen to Philadelphia, while Jake Berger leaving the south side of Chicago for South Florida, going to the Marlins. The Blue Jays got some insurance after Bo Bichette's injury, acquiring Paul DeJong from St. Louis. Bichette, though, did not suffer any structural damage in his knee, so right now he fortunately is just day-to-day. The Padres traded for the Pirates' Rich Hill and G-Man Shoaib. The Braves, the only division leader right now, cruising. They have baseball's best record and an 11-game lead in the NL East, and will host the Angels and will send 11-game winner Spencer Strider to the mound. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports is everywhere, at home, in your car, and, of course, on your phone and tablet. Find us on your local affiliate, SiriusXM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to Maggie and Perloff. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. It is Rivalry Week on the show. So today we're doing greatest college football rivalry of all time and greatest music rivalry of all time. Get back to the calls in a minute, but what we've noticed is that all these other rivalries are now springing up, like as we speak. We actually picked a good week to do this. Sean Payton versus the New York Jets. Jonathan Taylor versus Jim Irsay. It's a big one from this week. And now we have Carly Lloyd versus the U.S. Women's National Team. Now, Carly Lloyd is like an American hero when it comes to the U.S. Women's National Team. 3 World Cup wins. What'd she score? 6 goals in a final. She's a 2-time gold medalist. Now she's an analyst for Fox. Now, the U.S. Women's National Team has advanced to the knockout round at the Women's World Cup, which is happening in Australia and New Zealand. So this game happened in the middle of the night. The U.S. women tied Portugal 0-0, but move on to the knockout round, and Carly Lloyd was not having it that the women were celebrating and dancing after a 0-0 tie.
Just seeing these images for the first time right now on the desk, I've never witnessed something like that. There's a difference between being respectful of the fans and saying hello to your family, but to be dancing, to be smiling. I mean, the player of the match was that post. You're lucky to not be going home right now.
Whoa. The post is one of the Portuguese women hit the post, and it probably should have been a goal. Clearly had the goalie beat. And wow, Carly Lloyd not happy. So the coach of the U.S. Women's National Team is Vlatko Andonovski, and he thought Lloyd was out of line.
To question the mentality of this team, to question the willingness to win, to compete. I think it's insane.
So Lloyd had gone on, Perloff, to say that the women were playing uninspired. Didn't look like they wanted it bad enough. So
maybe she was trying to inspire her former teammates to go.
Bulletin board material.
Maybe this will be the turning point.
I think it's something. It's funny because when Sean Payton said those comments about the Jets, he said, sorry, I had my Fox hat on, like he was still working for Fox. Carly Lloyd, now she's really bringing it as an analyst. No idea if she's right or not, but she's really bringing the opinion. I mean, I trust her opinion. 855-212-4CBS. We'll get back to the rivalries. Ian is in Oregon, has a music rivalry for us. Hello, Ian.
Hello. Love your show. Well, I was kind of hoping you to put the Beatles in that Tom Brady rarefied air, the Beatles and then everybody else. But back in the early 60s, before the Stones, there was a group called the Dave Clark Five. You could look it up. And them and the Beatles were going neck and neck for a while for the first couple of years.
Yeah, it looks like the Beatles
won. Well, yeah, they did. But the Dave Clark Five, you could, again, they had a song called Glad All Over and Bits and Pieces and a few others. And those were the two.
Ian, were you a member of the Dave Clark Five?
No, I think they're all dead.
Oh, boy,
anyway.
sorry. I had no idea.
No, I got a little bit of a British background kind of thing. And but yeah, I look it up. At the early 60s, it was the Beatles and the Dave Clark Five going on back then.
Thank you for the phone call. I appreciate that. Saying the Beatles and the Dave Clark Five had a rivalry is like saying Serena Williams and Maria Sharapova had a rivalry. Like Sharapova beat her once, and Serena beat her like 22 times.
To Ian's credit, I did look up Dave Clark 5, and I typed in verses, and the first thing that popped up was Beatles.
Because we're talking about it, and the computers are reading our minds.
Damn it.
By the way, I felt like that was a little diss of Maria Sharapova there. She was pretty good. She's probably a little better than Dave Clark 5.
I don't know. No, but it's like that. People said that was a rivalry, but it can't be a rivalry when one person is beating the other person so consistently.
Michigan, Ohio State. Sorry.
Wow. Now Michigan.
How about Michael is in Ohio, has another music rivalry for us. Hi, Michael.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I actually have 3 of them. I'll keep it quick. And I have one off-the-radar college rivalry that people probably don't know. I'm 35 years old, so growing up in the 90s, going to middle school every day, every girl was either Team Brittany or Team Christina Aguilera. Yeah. It was one or the other. They all hated each other.
And, Perloff brought up a good one to me in the break when you said...
Oh, Katy Perry, Taylor Swift.
Yeah. That
song. Relax here, buddy.
I have another Taylor Swift one, Taylor Swift and Kanye.
Yeah, we mentioned that one before.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. And then how about Kid Rock, Tommy Lee, when Kid Rock punched him in the 07 AMAs over Pam Anderson? That was a pretty good one.
Oh, man.
I saw that in some lists. I didn't really remember what happened, but I got to tell you, that's the least surprising one I've ever heard in my entire life.
But I do have a sneaky college football one. I'm from Ohio, but we have a powerhouse D3. Mount Union and Wisconsin Whitewater, for 7 years in a row, from 05 to 07, they played for the national championship, going back and forth, trading titles each year. I know it's Division III, but I'm kind of like Paulie Paps and DP. I love watching D3 games on a Friday night when nobody else is watching. But that's a great rivalry.
Wait, but I think we know that because Lance Leipold from Kansas was a longtime Wisconsin Whitewater coach, wasn't he?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
And Mount
Union
has had a lot of NFL players go through there too. But I mean, could you imagine seeing like Ohio State and Georgia play for the national championship for 7 years in a row? Like, the media would be like at its wit's end.
Yeah.
A new team in there.
We wouldn't be able to handle it. Michael, thank you so much. Great job on music and on the football as well.
Yeah. By the way, I'm getting a lot more. Our buddy Tom Mansarenas, former Sports Illustrated producer, said Liam versus Noel Gallagher. We're getting a lot of that. Now, that's interband.
Yes.
And interfamily.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't want to do bandmate on bandmate crime.
I've also got a lot of NWA versus Ice Cube, bandmate versus bandmate. That was definitely a heated rivalry.
Let's get to our shot of the day.
He shoots!
And the shot of the day is brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos is brought to you by those who drink it, people like us. Today's shot of the day, well, early on in the show. This is what happens when a Mets fan finds out that Justin Verlander was traded on live radio.
We need a reset for Maggie. We desperately need something.
Laura said it's okay, Maggie. It'll all be okay. You don't know that, Laura.
Yeah.
I love you, but you don't know that.
No, Maggie's got off the deep end when she's yelling at the Weedos.
No. Laura's perceptive. Today is more of an intervention than a radio show.
No.
Deep breath.
Listen.
She's doing breathing exercises.
I want a camera on Maggie when Drew Gilbert hits a grand slam to win in the divisional round, and I just want to be there and say, I told you.
7 years.
Yeah. In the year 2030 when I renounce my Mets fandom for good. I'm just kidding. I can't quit you. And Stu just updated me in my ear. Who else of the Mets traded
Tommy
away?
Pham traded to the Diamondbacks.
Yeah. Oh, well.
My Twitter feed's getting bombarded with Drew Gilbert highlights. I guess he was a sick college player. He's 22 already. He should be ready.
Tennessee.
He should be ready to go. I feel like this is the greatest day the Mets have ever had.
I'm literally seeing things all over Twitter just about this Drew Gilbert guy.
Yeah.
About him being just like an absolute stud.
Okay.
Yeah,
you
the
guys
Drew Gilbert highlights are amazing, and the Tennessee baseball uniforms are sick.
Do you understand what's going to happen?
He's definitely getting hurt.
Definitely. Do you realize this is like what everyone has said about every great Mets prospect?
Well, you just
landed Paul Wilson.
Oh.
You just landed two potential stars. I don't know. It feels like if, as a neutral observer, that's what you want to do.
Okay, landed two potential stars. You just traded away two future Hall of Famers, first ballot. Perloff, it's not the process. Like, these guys don't hit as much as basketball guys do.
Yeah, but I don't, obviously, Verlander's 40. You can't ignore their age. They're 39 and 40. Scherzer's 39. Verlander's 40. You already saw How many miles an hour has Scherzer lost off his fastball?
Well, Scherzer is kind of a mess, but Verlander had been pitching well. So I'm bummed about that. Let's go back to the great debates. I wanted them to keep Verlander for another season, obviously. Chai is in Pennsylvania. Hello, Chai.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I have some input on the college football rivalry, and I think we need to take into account the time periods. Like back in the late 80s, and also as you both have said, Michigan was terrible for years. And back in the late 80s, early 90s, the Florida State deal, when Urban Meyer was there and Bobby Bowden was there, and the back-to-back championships for Florida, I mean, and it was Thanksgiving weekend every year, that was freaking crazy.
Yeah, but what about
Florida during that period?
Wasn't that Miami, Florida State time too, and the missed kick and all that? I feel like Miami was in that mix in the 90s.
Yeah, Miami was in there too, but every Thanksgiving it was Florida and Florida State.
Chai, it's a good one. Thank you so much for the call. And you're right. See, that's why I picked Army-Navy as my greatest rivalry, because these are two teams where it doesn't matter what the records are. It doesn't matter if one ups, one's down, where sometimes rivalries like FSU and Florida or Miami FSU or, even Michigan, Ohio State, when it goes like 9 years with one team beating the other, it's like,
Yeah, I mean,
gets strained a little bit.
I just thought that Miami, Florida State would have a special place in your heart, Maggie, because, the rivalry's named after a missed field goal wide right.
Thank you.
And you know a lot about that as a Buffalo fan.
Yeah, thank you.
Sort of the college version of the Bills.
Okay. Had to stretch for that one, but I appreciate you again.
Not that far.
Getting that into the show. Nick is in Portland. Hi, Nick. How are you?
Hey, guys. How's it going? Thanks for taking my call. Maggie, you should be a lawyer. Ever since the great debate series started, you've just been defending your take really well. Those firms will be lucky to have you in New York.
Nick, thank you. We're up against it.
Yeah, that's really what you want is a lawyer defending a rivalry.
Oh, man. I can't tell if that's a compliment. I think so. Thank you, Nick. Thank you to Mike Samter. Thank you to Stu Kovacs. Thank you to the Weedos. You guys were awesome today. Callers, fantastic. Tomorrow we join you with a whole new set of rivalries. We'll see you then.